All right. Thank you for joining us again here at our show discussing the Wheel of Time TV show. Of course, it's me again. This week, I am a different type of centrist. I am the Forsaken centrist. And we have here Tristram, aka Mask. And we'll possibly have Andrew joining us later at some point in time. Or maybe not. We'll see. But man, episode 8. I'm pretty sure you're gonna have a bunch of gripes about this episode because I
Well,
have a bunch
yeah.
of gripes, so you must have even more
No,
than I do.
but you got to remember, like some of the things that happened in recent episodes touched on like my favorite stuff. So like, Nynaeve and Lan are like precious to me. Um, I I'm a lot less bothered about Rand and stuff. But yeah, we'll talk. We'll have opinions.
Yeah, there's some great, like, there's obviously some really good stuff in this last episode,
Yeah.
but there are some things that are very out of character for some of our characters here. And
Yeah.
there's some
And
possible implications about the magic system that we're just not used to, or at
thought
least that
through
it isn't supported by the
the
books.
book. Yeah. and
So,
and we need to one of the things that they, like I've said right from the beginning, that they've not really taken the magic system wholesale. They still very much seem talking about like it's very much one power rather than two kind of powers, which I know it is the one power, but the book is very clear about Sidar and Sidene and how different they are. The show has not done that. It's suggesting that they're pulling pretty much exactly the same thing, just the male half is like dark or whatever. Um, and so
mhm.
we've already seen that they weren't being specific about some of the intricacies of the way the power works. And the first time I saw Circle, I wasn't happy with it. Um, so, but anyway, we should probably do. You prefer to do this in a chronological way, don't
Chronologically,
you? So let's crack
yes.
on.
Cold open. What are some things you liked about this cold open?
Like, yeah, the cold open I thought was fine. Like I don't think it was as good as the episode 7 one.
Well,
I think
nothing's
that was
going to
probably
top that.
the best cold open that we've had. It was just absolutely brilliant. Um, so I thought that was just sensationally good. Um, but I'm a big fan of um, the fact that they didn't make. I don't mind that Luz Theron doesn't look like Rand. I think actually that's a good thing that they can look quite different. That doesn't bother me at all. Um, I think it was really cool to sort of see this scene of where he's talking about the 100 companions. And like, obviously, we know that from the lore, those of us who are book readers, we know that in the Age of Legends, the key thing was that to do the greatest things with the power, you need men and women together through the
Hmm.
links. Though we don't fully understand that here in this in this book, we by the later end of the series, it's clear that the greatest things that can be achieved with the power have to be with the merger of both sides because of the way circles work. Um, and so the fact that when she refused to help him, she thought he wouldn't go. She thought like there's no way he can try it now. As I've got every other woman to sign my compact in the Hall of Servants, I basically have scuttled him. I've made it impossible for him to do because men can't link more than one with another. And
Hmm.
so, but he is so determined, so powerful, so successful, and so desperate to stop the Dark One that he takes the 100 companions and goes to do it. One of the things that is not able to be made clear here is that the Dark One was getting out. Like the bore was already opened. This cold open, unfortunately, seems to present the idea that he made the bore, which of course he didn't. Lanfear did, and then he went to seal him back in, and he did a pretty good job. And it was actually, he defeated the Dark One, and the Dark One, just as he was getting sealed away, did a quick counterstroke, and that's what tainted the weave. Whereas this cold open suggests that in his arrogance, he made the problem, that he broke through to the Dark One, that he caused the taint, which and I didn't like, because it's not really what the books say, but I understand that they are not going to go with a lot of the detail in the books. Like, for example, the Eye of the World was not what the Eye of the World is. And so I think this is, for this version of the story, this is fine. I like the Age of Legends. I like the architecture. I like the clothing. I like the fact that we got a shot of show wings and things like that, making it really clear to the non-reader viewer what the Age of Legends was really all about. For the people who haven't noticed the skyscrapers and the subtle things, they go, oh, right, this is post-apocalyptic. This goes in cycles. And in the past, they were far, far, far more advanced. And they hit it right on the head by but I love the conversation. I think the conversation is very good. I think they sound like they're making cogent arguments. I just think that it shows that the show is going to suggest something different than, like, I'm guessing that Lanfear is not going to be the one who researched the boar. I'm guessing that's just going to not even exist.
Yeah, there's so much lore and backstory. I find it hard to imagine that they'll touch upon things like that. Like, I don't even think any iteration of the Green Men or like their counterparts from the Age of Legends are going to be in this show.
No, as he wasn't at the Eye of the World, that's certain. That is absolutely positive, Dusty. If there's a Green Man in now, I will be gobsmacked. I think the only thing we're going to see from the Age of Legends is Aes Sedai, the origin of the Aiel, and the origin of the Tuathan.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was pretty decent.
And
this cold open, I thought it was cool, because I'm always concerned on what are the interpretations that non-book readers are going to see. And I was like, I wonder how they're going to react to the scene, especially the flying vehicles. And it's always nice to see like a fresh take on that. So I was glad that, even though this is not like strictly book canon,
it's pretty close. It's pretty close, just to be clear. Like,
yeah, it is close. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She says, I'm denying you all the women, you can't go. And he says, I'll go with just men then. And because of that, when the counterstroke happens, it hits the male half of the power. And because of that, the world is set back 100 years. Her comment, you're going to set the world back 100 years, doesn't make sense, because how does she know that will be the counterstroke and that all the men will go crazy? She obviously doesn't. That's why it's effective. But I'm just going to ignore that.
Yeah, I guess they're just trying to make it clear to people just watching the show.
Absolutely. And it does. It fulfills that purpose, Dusty. It fulfills that purpose. And I think my wife, and who doesn't know the books, she found that scene really interesting. It clearly explained to her that, like, the men went, and that's why the men all are like cursed now, and the women refused to help them because they thought they would fail. Like, she gets that. She also now gets, in a way that she did not understand before, that they used to have high technology and now they don't. And so it obviously fulfills its purpose as a cold open, and I think it's really good. My nitpicks are only nitpicks. I enjoyed the scene. I'm glad it's in. I like many of the cold opens. It shows things that we never saw in the books, and many of them, like, we never saw Red Sisters going around capturing random men, but we know it happened. We never saw the birth of the dragon, but we understand it happened. And so like Swan growing up on the rivers, that's great. I love all that stuff. So I think this was an effective cold open, and I think it did what it needed to do.
Yes. One thing I will note too, I saw some fan do a 1-to-1 shot of the ruined skyscrapers from the first episode, and they actually matched it up right with the architecture you see in this cold open, and it is the same. It is the same place.
That is cool. All right,
Yeah, I'll try to
that's a
get
fun
that
little nod.
photo to you. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that they planned it out that way.
Yeah, put
And
it in our
only,
messenger.
yeah, and only the most like observant would catch something like that. I know for sure
Yeah,
I didn't. But
you need
I'll see
you
if
need
I
to be
can
pretty
find that
dedicated.
picture.
You need to be pretty dedicated.
um, so yeah, so we jump right back into the story. Rand and Moraine are
Yeah,
wading through the blight. Nothing
yeah,
major happens here.
yeah.
She's just kind of
Skip that.
explaining that
Yeah,
what caused the blight, and it's they do encounter a corpse.
yeah, yeah. That,
Um,
yeah. And
and she
one
just
of the things
basically explains like, yeah, the
is,
blight is this rot coming from the Dark One's prison, and uh, like young Shinarans often test themselves on the blight, and
yeah,
often, they get corrupted by it. And when I mean
yeah,
corrupted, I don't mean they come
killed.
back evil. It kills them.
Yeah, killed or corrupted. Absolutely. Like some of them turn to dark because we know that about the Aiel. The Aiel
Right.
men who could channel, they would go
Yeah.
north, like to die in the blight, but some of them would actually fall and become like dreadlords because they get used in Tarmangaiden. So yeah, you either die or you kill a few Trollocs and then you die, or you turn evil.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure like a channeler sent to their death in the blight is probably coveted by the dark side.
Yeah,
So I don't think they want to outright kill those types of folks. They want to try to turn them somehow.
but yeah, and if they're male channelers, like which is what many of the Aiel were, right? They
Right.
were deliberately because they would go like I'm going to go insane, so this is my way of honorably killing myself. But if you're going
Hmm.
insane, what are the chances that you don't kill yourself and actually are turned because you've gone insane? You lose your whatever sense of honor or control that made you go out there in the first place. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But it's good that it shows that people die in the blight. That like just traveling through this isn't an easy option. I think that's good.
Right. So we just get another quick scene with
Yeah.
Perrin and Egwene.
Yeah.
It's basically them like making amends about the arguments that happened in the last episode
Yeah.
regarding the love triangle stuff that a lot of people were upset about. Um,
Yeah, well, and it shows that Perrin's like fine. Like he'd adjusted a long time ago that he wasn't going to be with Egwene,
right.
even in this version. And so I'm glad that they didn't go heavy-handed with that. That would have been so annoying.
Yeah. So
So
she's just really worried about Rand having left on his own, and
yeah,
I think parents comforting her as, "Hey, I love this guy too. He's like one of my best friends."
yeah,
So they're just trying to
absolutely, and that's
comforting
made
each
clear.
other.
Yep.
Yeah. So jumping back with Rand and the Blight. This is
The Seven Towers,
yeah. So
the
we get to
Towers of
see the
Markir.
Seven Towers. What do you think about the look of the towers?
Uh, it, I I think that's fine. Like they can look however they want. They look like they've been overgrown for like a millennium and weathered down by like the winds or something, and like they've turned into like what looks like lumps of rock in Utah, rather than
Yeah.
like man-made towers that have crumbled. I would have preferred them to look more like turrets, um, but they obviously decided to go with the idea that they look like several hundred years old.
Yeah, they look
But
like super
eh,
corrupted.
like they look like just piles of rocks. They don't even
Yeah.
look like towers to me.
I think
Eh,
that's why there was somebody who made the assertion that, oh, this must have happened hundreds of years ago, and then Moraine's like, no, the Blight's only overtaken that for about 40 years ago.
yeah, because obviously that's when because Lan was a baby, right? We
Right.
know that Lan was born in Malkir. I think it is Randy goes through is like whatever, and she's like, no, it's gone over. But
So I guess it's just kind of they're trying
yeah,
to establish that the Blight is unnatural.
yeah,
So it can cause things to decay quite quickly.
Yeah, which is fine.
So yeah, Moraine kind of tells him, "Hey, don't touch anything, but we got to rest up here."
Yeah.
So they kind of just put things on hold for a while,
Yeah.
and then we get another scene with your two favorites here, Lan and Nynaeve.
Yeah, I love those guys.
So there was some gripes I heard about this scene in particular. Not
hmm,
well, I don't know. It's not like their interaction or anything. It's something where Nynaeve explains that
she tracked Moraine and that she has a
yeah,
tell.
the problem is there's no payoff for the tell.
Yeah.
So
And it's pointless, right? It's pointless. And
yeah,
it deliberately, it like, because the point is Lan finds them anyway. So, like, why even do the masking of the bond if you want Lan to rock up in the end anyway? Or if you do mask the bond, just have Lan track them. He's an expert tracker.
yeah, I
Hello.
don't
Um,
understand the whole thing. Maybe it
and
was a bad
yeah,
editing. I don't know,
and
but
it's just that I just think again they just want to like make Nynaeve seem like Nynaeve doesn't need any help being badass. She is badass, and like I don't know. I just think it's pointless. I've got no problem with it, but it's pointless. It doesn't add anything. It isn't bad. It just doesn't add anything to the episode. It's a waste of words.
yeah, it's words that also cause confusion because there's no we never get to hear or see what
What the
that
tell
tell
is,
is.
yeah,
I know what it would be book wise because one of the main reasons Nynaeve was able to track them so well was because of her connection with the original. One, I guess in the book they explained that when she heals somebody,
yeah,
it creates a type of bond. So
yes,
she has that bond with both Rand and Egwene because she both healed them
yes.
before, so she's able to track them.
And so she
So
wasn't actually tracking them like a ranger would track them. She was just following that pull.
yes, I assume in her mind she is probably listening to the winds to track them in a way,
Yeah. To
or
that
some
point
sense
which she
like
didn't
that.
understand. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but there's no way that Lan could do that. She'd
No, that's
have to
what
go
I'm
across with
saying.
him.
Like,
Yeah.
if that was her tell, like, Land would have no way to follow up on that.
And so I think that's why they just didn't explain. Because if they did
They're like,
explain,
oops,
it
we
wouldn't
should have
make
edited
sense.
that part out. That's probably what they were thinking after the fact.
Or just have Lan have this meeting and have Lan say she's masked the bond. I'm going to go and try and track her manually. And
The
Nynaeve's going,
old-fashioned
sure,
way.
that's really dangerous. And he's going, I've got to do whatever I can to find her, something like that. And then they could have had her say, but look, if she's masked the bond, she's telling you go away. And then he could
Hmm.
explain that for a warder, the warder sometimes knows that his Aes Sedai isn't always right. And she's forced to agree with that because she definitely thinks that. And that could have been a
Right.
cool sort of interaction over the "Are you Moraines?" because that's a problem for me kind of thing. But they
Hmm.
just I don't know. There's nothing wrong with it really. It's just a waste. I think of very
Right.
limited screen time.
So one of the positive things about this scene is
Yep.
Lan is going on this mission, and he
Yep.
talks to Nynaeve as if he expects not to survive. Right.
Yes.
So he basically tells her that he's probably not going to be the man that she ends up with,
And he used
and
some lines from the book. Some lines from the book. And I love them. They're great lines. Thank goodness he
go
used
ahead,
them.
tell us those
When he
lines.
when he goes like the man, I can't quote them, but like the man you will be with, I'll hate him because he's not me, but I'll love him if he
Right.
makes you smile. I love that. That is straight Jordan. That is word for word Jordan. and it is brilliant. It's an important part of their relationship. It is something that he says early on in the relationship, because he's trying to explain to her that they can't be together, because he will, even though he's developing feelings for her, because like, I'm a warder, I am like a one-man, I have a one-man war with the Blight and the Dark One. I'm gonna die, so I acknowledge that I have feelings for you, but it's not going to be me. And so I love that. It seems odd when he has that in his head, that you have the scene that they showed us in previous episodes when they spend the night together. It doesn't make sense now, does it? But anyway, I'll just be a frustrated person. But this scene and that whole thing, and then her challenging and saying, I'm prepared to give up being a wisdom, and showing for the first time that she is thinking of being an Aes Sedai. I think that is good, because Nynaeve did that. She did make the change. I really wish they'd had her and Moiraine have that showdown when she confronted the Amyrlin Seat. I said that in our previous episode, that she gave the reasons for that as, yeah, I do want a new chance. I do want to learn how to heal. I do want to learn how to put you Aes Sedai in your place, and I can't do that without learning what you know. But she doesn't say that. But at least she does say, maybe I'll be something other than a wisdom, showing that Nynaeve now understands that she's not going back to the Two Rivers. She is the last one to realize it, but now she's realized it.
Yeah, one of the things she does say is that wisdom never weds, which is another justification for her not to stay as a wisdom and to become something more, which would be like an Aes Sedai, which she kind of he basically implies that that's what her future is going to be with the White Tower. So yes, they have this heartfelt scene. He's going to hate the man she chooses.
I love that.
But will smile if that man makes her happy. He's just like giving her words of comfort, and basically, spilling his heart out in a very Lan way,
and I love the fact that he doesn't cry, because he shouldn't. But that is, for Lan, like you just said, that is spilling his hearts out for Lan Mandragoran. But the other thing that is cool about this is, I've had some opportunity to know people who have lost loved ones, like spouses, and in a couple of situations, I have who the spouse has said, I'm going to die. Don't feel that you can't be with anyone else. I wish you were with me, but as I'm dying, I want you to know that I am okay with you being happy if you choose to be with somebody else. And I think that is such a noble and selfless thing to say. And I think one of the things that Lan is saying here is, yeah, we're in love, but don't think that you're going to be being disloyal to me when you eventually realize you have to have someone else. Don't be alone for the rest of your life just because you fell in love with someone who's doomed to die. And that is tragically heroic in all the best ways. So I absolutely love that. I really do. And I do think that even though it's totally storybook, I do think it parallels something that I have seen in real life, and that I think is a really high form of selfless love.
All right. So yeah, I think we could jump into the next scene, which is really interesting. I actually like this next scene. Rand is fast asleep, and he seemingly gets woken up by the blight growing onto his hand, and then Moiraine being concerned about what he had been dreaming. And she gets killed. So just to say, I don't think this is Tel'aran'rhiod Rhiod. I think it's a dream invasion.
Okay, but
or a dream shard.
A dream invasion happens via Tel'aran'rhiod Rhiod, doesn't it? Like you've got to be in Telar and Riod to walk into the dreams. Like that, dreamwalkers are the only people who can do that.
Well, isn't okay?
They're just not there
Isn't
in the flesh.
Balsamon a dreamwalker?
He is indeed. But what I'm saying is he goes into the dreams via Telar and Riod. It's just he's not there in the flesh. Yeah? Every time they dreamwalk, they're using the dream world. And so, but I agree that like he's come into Rand's dream. Rand isn't dreaming himself. He's not in Telar and Riod himself. It's Ishmael who's doing this.
Okay. And 1 point for me for predicting that it was going to be Balsamon instead of Agenor and Balthamel.
Yeah, definitely point to you. And again, we can see them wanting to simplify and keep it to less and less confusion. But we knew that we wouldn't have both, but they completely dropped the.
Well, the ending is completely
different.
Yeah, it's not completely different, but
yeah,
it's
very,
definitely
very
not the eye of the world ending that we would expect. And I actually wasn't expecting that to actually play out the way it was going to happen.
No.
I thought there are actual some improvements to this ending, but yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
So we have full on true power, flaming furnace eyes and mouth.
Yeah.
Balsamon sticking a sword through the back of Moiraine's mouth, and you see it. There's a lot of like swords being stuck in the back of people and showing up in the front of people in this show. It seems like this is just another instance of that. So I'm assuming what I really like is what is this going to do to the non-readers? I know for sure like what it was right when it happened.
Well, they just think he's having crazy dreams, right?
Yeah. So he immediately attacks Balsamon in the eye, and then there's like this really cool effect where he pushes the arrow into his eye, and then he just takes on the form of a regular looking person. And he even says like the reason he's doing this is, hey, we can have a conversation now. That I'm not some weird looking burnt up glowy eyed dude. And I know they took some liberties with his like Balsamon look, because I know it's just supposed to be the eyes and mouth.
Yes.
He doesn't get burnt until what? He does get burnt.
That happens. That happens when he has the fight with Rand.
Yeah, he gets burnt up.
Yeah.
And I think that's at the Dark Friend social that he's starting to heal from those burns. And I don't think they're going to have the Dark Friend social either.
No. Well, actually, I don't know. That could actually happen because.
You think so?
Yeah, because the Dark Friend social doesn't necessarily need them to identify any Dark Friend, and I think that would work as
You know what? Rand does fight Balsamon at the end of book 1. He does.
He fights Agenor first.
He fights all three of them. Well, he fights Agenor and then he fights Balsamon. So I guess they just kind of axed the other two.
They did, but it's different. It's not the way it is in the book. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We knew it wasn't going to be, so we're not griping about that because we already knew it wasn't going to be. And the ending of book 1 is not the best ending.
No, it's probably the weakest ending. I'd say I'd tie that with probably book 7 as a pretty weak ending, and that's the one where. Yeah. So, what was that?
The one that ends with the Bowl of the Winds is not amazing, and the one that ends with a wall falling on Mat is not amazing either. But anyway, And she's like, "Hey, a wolf on that. Let's end the book." No, anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. So,
Yeah, so
we need to get on with the actual episode. Yep.
yeah, so in this scene, this is interesting because Balsamon is not as crazy as we would expect him to be.
No.
He seems
I'm
very
hoping-
sane.
I'm hoping they're gonna make him descend into madness along with Rand. So as Rand descends into madness, Balsamon descends into madness, like throughout the series. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. That they'll get crazy together, as it were.
So you think the series is going to just keep Balsamon and not do a Moradin thing? Like they're just going
I
to
do
keep
think that.
Balsamon throughout, and they're not going to kill him
Yeah.
off, and then do a resurrection as Moradin.
Correct. That.
Okay.
However, they might still do that above Falme at the end of season 2. It's possible. But I just think they're showing a lot of effort to simplify things and to have less of stuff. And the lack of an introduction to Agenor and Balthamel suggests that they might just completely be missing out the whole death and resurrection thing for Forsaken. So
That's possible.
I don't think we're going to see a Sindine either. I think we're going to get Lanfear, and that's it. I don't think
That's just fine.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's okay.
Her return was never really important.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if you consider like the resurrections, it's almost as if you have like 16 Forsaken.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
So that can get a little confusing. Yeah.
Especially to people who don't know the books. But anyway, so this dream is good because it establishes again that the Dark One is messing with Rand, that he's at a place that is very close to Dark One's power. It's good that it's showing that Ishmael is trying to get in his head, trying to scare him, but also trying to recruit him. All of that is good. And
Right.
And I like the look of Ishmael. I didn't say that previously, but I do like.
Oh yeah, it's his garb. Like he looks very different from what you would expect. So it seems like his fashion is probably Age of Legends fashion.
Yeah, which is perfect, right? That is what it should be.
Right, especially if he's going to be in the dream world, right? Because he's going to want to look like whatever he thinks he should look like, as opposed to what does he have access to in the real world.
And they always, when the Forsaken are talking about the others, they always talk of them as like these rustics, etc.
Right.
They're like these guys.
These backwoods people, these like these primitives. Almost talking down to them, and it becomes funny, just like throughout the series when they're like, these primitives, how they get this hubris and they can't believe that they're bested by these people. All right, so yeah, Rand does wake up for real, and Moiraine is alive. So
how isn't this where he wakes himself up? I'm not watching the episode right now.
Oh yeah, right.
By,
yes. I forgot to mention that. So this is why I believe it's not Teleran Riode, because if he indeed stabbed himself in the stomach, he would have died in real life.
Yeah, for real.
We have to see how closely they adhere to those rules in the show.
Basically, just to be clear, I don't think they've ever been, except maybe Perrin. I don't think any of them have actually been in the dream world in the flesh. Like, right. Just to be clear, I think that's going to happen with the ter'angreal, and when Egwene starts researching that, and then when Perrin starts going at the wolf dream, I'm hoping at least that this is all meant to be messed up dreams, rather than but so it's Ishmael using the dream world to assault their minds. But I don't think that any of them are actually in Tel Aren'Rhiod, and I don't think they ever have been Not like
Right.
in. Okay.
Yeah, they might not introduce that until.
It's a complicated idea, remember, because
Yeah.
it's a completely separate magic system, and it doesn't have very rules. Like it's actually much more mysterious than the one power, which is kind of laid out. And so it's important to get this right.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's my call. But you're absolutely right. He stabs himself, and this is like, don't push the thing in his eye. I think that's kind of like a hint. That's why I thought that was how I proved that that wasn't real, and that turned that
Hmm.
off. So now I'll prove it isn't real again, and I'll do it in the most emphatic way. I'm proving that I disbelieve, and we know that disbelieving is a really important part of getting control of the dream. But the
Hmm.
thing that's cool is like sheathing the sword in yourself is an ongoing theme of the Wheel of Time and Samurai.
Right.
And so I thought that was actually well done. I like that nod.
Mm.
Anyway,
Okay, so next, well, yeah, he wakes up and real Moraine asks the exact same questions, and Rand's like, I don't believe a thing he says. So he just stays mum about what happened in the dream. Um, Next scene, we get Nynaeve attempting to try to listen to the wind,
yep.
and she explains that since she's channeled, she's lost the ability. So this is interesting, to say the least. I guess they're
Yeah.
saying that her block started when she channeled.
Nah. I
Do you think that's what
I
they're saying here, or?
I think they're saying that like she was only able to do it because she was doing it unconsciously. Now she knows it's to do with the power. Like trying to do something that you can just do often does get in your way. I don't I they just invented this and I don't know why. They're causing themselves problems that just don't exist. Like why have her not able to listen to the wind? Like what's the advantage of that? What's the point of it?
No
Um
clue.
no, that's the only problem I have with it. Like it's not a bad thing, it's just not a good thing. It doesn't do anything. Um like yeah, it has absolutely nothing to do with the storyline. Like she I
Hmm.
don't know. In my opinion, she should still be able to do what she's always been able to do. But it does make sense to an extent that when you try to consciously do something that you do subconsciously, it can be very tricky. Um,
Mm.
like like have you ever tried to teach someone to do something that you've never actually had to specifically learn, or you've forgotten how you learned it? Like when I try and teach my children how to hold a pencil, I'm like, well,
Hmm.
you just hold it, right? Or like trying to put their fingers where your fingers are. Like you
Hmm.
actually end up standing behind them and holding it in front of them and going like, hold it like this. But it's just so natural that you don't even think about how you're doing it. And I think that might be part of what they're hopefully going for here is that that now that she thinks it's a conscious use of the power, it's actually getting in her way. But her
Mm.
block is, I don't think, should be associated with listening to the wind at all. It's about consciously
About
using the power.
channeling.
Yeah, because she thinks she shouldn't channel. From the very
Mm.
beginning, she thinks that channeling is bad. She thinks that the
Right.
Aes Sedai are bad, and she works against that. She's in denial, and it's the denial that does that.
Yeah, so Egwene demonstrates that she can listen to the wind,
Yeah.
and she senses like something ominous coming
Mm.
while they're framing Tarwin's Gap in the background.
Yeah.
Same thing we heard on Beltane, so basically Trollocs.
Bad stuff. And like Nynaeve in the books, she says like she has a feeling like a storm's coming, and
Hmm.
it isn't a storm. It's obviously something like this. So
Yeah, because we never actually in the books, Egwene was never known to
no,
like exhibit any wind listening ability.
no. I guess it's just because they want to make it really clear this is a use of the one power. So if anyone who can use the one power can obviously do this. It's just not necessary. But anyway, doesn't matter.
Well, that happens a lot in this episode, but
Yeah.
next we get back into Rand and Moraine's plight,
Yep.
and they just kind of try to strategize what they're going to do once they get to the eye of the world.
Even though they don't really know what's going to happen when they get there.
No, they're like almost have no clue. It seems like.
Except that she says that anyone except the dragon who goes is going to die in the So.
Yeah. So
He's
yeah,
like,
they have their
"You should come."
motives.
Yeah.
Oh, so didn't she talk about Moraine talks about her training, which is actually alludes to basically she talks about something that is straight out of New Spring.
Yeah.
Which is the test. So and it's pretty good. Like I would say we know who she's talking about, but she doesn't name anybody because we don't even know if that person's going to show up in the show.
Correct.
Right. So basically, she just talks about how she was training for the test, and this one Aes Sedai started beating her with the one power because she was having trouble channeling.
Yep.
Which is kind of accurate. It was more about
really.
like
She never struggled to channel. It was
no, it was just
pressure.
Yeah, she was just having. It's with the test, that she doesn't go into detail, but this is about the test she was going to take to become an accepted, which is she has to perform 100 weaves and do it under extreme calm.
That's the test for the shawl. The test.
I'm sorry. Accepted is the ring. Shawl's the 100 weaves.
Yeah.
Okay. So she just talks about that. It's because Rand asks her, "Oh, how do I channel?" And she's like, "I have no clue."
Which is good. That's really good. That was one of my favorite things. Thank you for making it really clear that men and women channel completely differently. Thank you. Yes. Love that. Really good point. Do that all the time.
So we get an introduction of an Angreal, but she calls it a Sangreal here.
Yeah.
But in her description, well, yeah, this is very different. Her description of it, though, kind of suggests it is a Sangreal.
It's super powerful.
Well, she says it magnifies his power like a lot. Like an Angreal is like a couple times more.
Angreals are massive, massive increases in power. Sangreals are just off the scale. But an Angreal is clearly incredibly powerful. Like the woman, the statue of the woman with the hair clothing her is an Angreal, but when she uses it, it makes her incredibly powerful. In the hairnet that Katsune has, there is an Angreal, and it makes her incredibly powerful. So Angreal are definitely incredibly powerful. Just Sangreal, the only thing that they're not powerful compared to is Sangreal. But Sangreal, there's like less than 12 in the entire series. They are extremely, extremely rare, incredibly, incredibly powerful. But Sangreal, like, let's talk about destroying armies. That's the sort of level that they're on. So I have no problem with this. I think it could have been described and been an Angreal and been fine. I think the fact that they called it a Sangreal says to me, Dusty, that they're just never going to introduce Angreal. Angreal are not going to exist in this show.
Okay, it's just going to be the most powerful artifacts and not like the little boosters that, because Moraine, that's the same one that she had at the very first cold open.
Yeah, it's the happy man with the sword.
Okay, because she says that like concerning it. She calls it a sangreal,
Yeah, and I
and she
think they will
says
call them all
that
that.
yeah, and she says that it magnifies his power like 1,000-fold.
Mm.
So we'll have to see because it's like kind of like they're mixing the two a little bit here. It doesn't seem like Choden Call levels of crazy
No.
or Kalendor levels of crazy,
Well,
but
yeah, but they're the most powerful sangreal in the world. But remember, in the books, the cleansing of the taint of the dagger with Matt was done by a full circle of 13 sisters with a one sangreal, the most powerful one in the tower. And they just had Moraine do that, barehanded. So hello.
mhm.
So
All right, so we
things are
can
different
yeah
in the
we
show.
can jump into the next scene here, and Egwene goes to the tavern in Faldara where Min works, and they strike up a conversation.
Hmm.
Um, so both Egwene and Perrin are there, and they are concerned about what she may have told Rand. Um, and one thing she does tell them, um, while she's having a conversation with them, she's also having some visions. And this is where it basically starts to hit the fan here. One
Yeah,
of the visions of Nynaeve, it shows her like, I guess, burning out is what we'll have to
yeah,
call it. And she sees a bunch of Faldaran soldiers like keeling over and dying. And then they hear some type of call to arms, like really shortly after that.
yeah.
So this is where stuff starts getting heated in this episode. So Moraine and Rand are still going through the things, but we see that from their perspective, they're looking back at Faldara. They could see a horde of Trollocs approaching Tarwin's Gap. I guess a lot of people I heard complain online were saying, "Where did these Trollocs come from?"
Well, no, and yet that's actually not a complaint from me because from the blight. Hello. Um, so yeah, that's actually completely in line with what happens in the Eye of the World. The Trollocs have been gathering the blight, but one of the things is they're not surprised. I guess that's one of the reasons that the show doesn't do it as well, because like Aegomar's known they've been coming, as you know, and
Mhm,
he says to Lan, like, "Oh, thank goodness you're here, because we're going to have to ride to the Gap and fight. There's got a huge collection of Trollocs that are coming."
mhm.
And like they're not in any way surprised. They know fine well that this is taking place. But yeah, I guess in the series, I guess people are saying, didn't Rand and Moraine just walk through that gap like a second ago? I guess that's what they're thinking. But I have no problem with bajillions of Trollocs coming from the Blight, because the Blight is overrun with tons of Trollocs.
Yeah, I know. Like Rand has a lot of concern because his friends are all back in Faldara, and he sees all these Trollocs going to attack there. So of course he has the inclination to want to help his friends. But Moraine pushes him on, say, hey, we have another mission here that's much more
More
important.
important. Yeah.
Um, so we get back into what's going on at Faldara, and Agomar, he's gathering his trusted lieutenants
Yep.
and peeps. He looks out over,
The Brotherhood of the
and
Bun.
yeah, which guy with the bun? Because everybody has a bun here.
That's why I call it. That's why in Everyday Negroes they call them the
Oh,
Brotherhood of the Bun,
the Brotherhood of the Bun. Yeah, I know
because
they
it's a
were like
bunch of.
debating what to call these guys. But yes, the Bun Brotherhood. assembles. Man, Agomar is just looking freaked out. This is kind of weird for me because I was like, Agomar would probably be calm, but he's looking
Absolutely.
like really intense and kind of like shaken by what he's seeing.
I guess
Either
one
that
thing
or he
that
just looks like that. Maybe that's just kind of his natural look, but um,
but I
he,
think again they want it to be extreme, right? They want
right.
a emotional reaction from the audience, and so they have to go for extremes, and they do that. I think the idea is that this is more Trollocs than they've ever seen, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of it's not a raiding party, it's a full-on army coming through. So this creates some issues. He is told by his sister that the gap's basically not going to hold.
Yeah.
So we go on to the next scene, and they come to what looks like some type of ruins, which is actually their destination.
Hmm.
The Eye of the World, I assume, like the show version of the Eye of the World, at
Correct.
least.
Absolutely.
And we also have shots of Lan going through the blight. And at this point, he reaches where they previously were, which is near the Seven Towers. And he looks at those towers and he has, his stoic Lan look. He doesn't break down or anything by seeing his homeland. He looks at it and he moves on.
Which is perfect. That's absolutely fine.
So we get back to Agomar with his sister Amalisa, and they're getting decked out, prepared for battle. At least he is at the moment. And they have a discussion about a suit of armor.
Yeah. Again, a waste of time. Like there's so many other things that
Yeah.
you could be fitting into these episodes, but I assume it's power forged. Like some of the ancient weapons are power forged. I'm assuming the armor is, and the point is that like our family have worn this armor and they've always been okay. And he's like, yeah, but I'm leaving that for you. My own armor will do today. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like I'm giving the best I have to you.
Hmm.
If this was an old Japanese movie, I'd love that line. um, it just seems a little pointless for what they're doing here. It doesn't seem to add a lot, but it's obviously meant to be showing that he is kind of accepting that he's going to die and he wants to give
Hmm.
her the best chance and he understands that the power is the only way they're going to win. But having said that, that's one of the reasons, and this is something that causes problems, I think, even for the non-book readers, like my
Hmm.
wife, who are like, well, if they know it's not going to work and that the women with the power are the only chance, why don't they use the women with the power first?
Right.
And
Um,
so that is a bit of a problem because obviously in the books they they were just going to try and fight him off, and then Rand turns up and blows everybody up, which wasn't a
but
good
maybe
ending.
they're just saying that maybe Shinaran society is more male focused and that naturally the males are going to want to sacrifice themselves first, regardless of whether they can use the power or not.
Mm. But the thing is, his commentary is like, go and get all the women who can channel, and this also goes back to the previous episode where they suggested that they've been resistant to working with the Aes
Hmm.
Sedai, which is obviously a change from the books. So yeah, I guess
Right.
they're suggesting that they've been kind of like, we don't need the channelers, and so maybe that's why they don't understand and why they've come to this too late. But yeah, it's still, and they did show that it's risky, which is good.
Hmm.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So if we want to go to the next scene, um, well, I know he's like, hey, we got to tell everybody what's going on here because he doesn't believe he's going to survive the battle. So he tells her to send word to everybody else of what happened here as if it was a
The Last Stand.
foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
So we go into next scene. Rand gets to the bottom of that pit or ruin, and it's overgrown like immensely. And one of the things I loved is you get to see the Aes Sedai symbol, and he's starting to have
Yeah.
his memories. He talks about how he's fought somebody there before, so he's starting to have like his Luce Theron, Dragon Reborn memories surface. I'm wondering if this is confusing to like the non-book readers. I'm
No, I don't
guessing they'll
think so.
probably figure it out, right?
Yeah,
The
especially
Dragon Reborn.
considering, yeah, the Dragon Reborn. They showed Luce Theron at the beginning in the cold open. They said he went to this place to fight the Dark One, and now he's saying, "I feel like I've been here before." I think that most TV fans absolutely got that reference. Yeah, I think the show did that fine. I think it did it really well, in fact, and by simplifying things, they've made that more clear than maybe it would have been otherwise.
Yeah, so we see kind of like him remembering this fight between Luce Theron and, well, it's good that they introduced him in the cold open, so when they do flash him here, we kind of know who he is. And then, of course, it shows him fighting Ba'al Zaman Ishi, and he takes a look at the symbol, and he's like, "This
Did you
symbol."
Just call Ishmael Ishi?
Yeah, Ishi.
I'm glad you got a cute name for him.
Yeah,
the betrayer of hope. Just Ishi, my man.
Yeah, so he kneels down, and as soon as he touches the symbol, I guess he goes into some type of dream world. Are you because he was fully awake when he did this? What do you think is going on here?
It's got to be some kind of illusion, mask of mirrors, or pulled into the dream. It's got to be. It can't be real.
Well, no, I know it's not real. Yeah. But you think he was kind of, this is a dream shard, maybe?
Yeah, I don't think he can be physically in Tel Arenriod, unless they've really, really changed the rules of how that works.
Well, I'm not super concerned because the end of the Eye of the World was super mushy anyway when it came to that stuff.
Yeah, so it's fine.
So apparently he gets pulled into some illusionary place, which resembles a nice cozy cabin. And he finds an empty crib, and he's looking like, what the hell's going on here? And he hears like Egwene laughing outside.
Yeah, and this does happen. Like the Dark One does,
but not here. It does happen.
And later on in the rings, this happens to Nynaeve, doesn't it? They show her other realities that she could have if she were to join them. So it's clearly one of the Dark One's like go-to moves, right? And so I actually really like this. I think this is absolutely how the Dark One works. And whether it's an illusion, whether it's a forced dream shard, or whatever, it definitely works. I really like this. I think it's one of the best parts of the whole show.
Yeah, I thought this was an improvement on the ending. It just makes it like the improvement I see, because this makes more sense for the series, because at this point was all in the recruitment effort. And we didn't really get that sense in the first book, at least the ending of the first book.
Yeah.
So right now he gets put in a really tempting situation, which is very similar to what the accepted test is, to have to force themselves to leave this idyllic situation. So in this, the idyllic situation is, hey, I've made a great life with Egwene and we have a child, and look at this beautiful landscape that we live among, and he's
Did you
looking
notice
at the
what the child's
child.
name was?
Yeah, it's the same one that from the
From
book,
Egwene's
Joya.
rings. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
when
from
Egwene goes to the
Egwene's.
rings, she sees this scene,
Yeah, which
and
is interesting that they merged this scene, and I don't mind them pulling from
no,
this because I wasn't
no.
expecting them to dedicate a whole episode on an accepted test. And
Oh, you know
so,
what though? They totally should. If they are clever, they will, because the accepted tests are just amazing, and it will go down a freaking treat. But maybe they won't be able to do that because it doesn't include the full cast enough. But I'm just
right.
saying, if they do, I don't think many fans will have a problem with that.
No, I don't think so. I
I
know
think it will go
Nynaeve does it
down.
first, and
It'll it'll be
my
great.
favorite is Nynaeve's test. I really love
Oh,
hers.
Nynaeve's just the best at everything, dude. Let's be honest. She just rocks.
Well, I hope they do show like some of Nynaeve's tests, but um,
I'm sure
anyway,
they will. I'm sure they will.
I'm hoping. I've hope for that. So as this is happening, Rand is in his idealistic world.
Hmm.
Moraine on the real world
Yeah.
is trying to. She sees that Rand is just like collapsed and fallen asleep or went unconscious. And Ishi just appears right in front of her, and she does some weaves to attack him, and he thwarts her efforts with little effort at all. And he is the type of channeler that doesn't use any. Well, he does use like very very small and simple hand motions, not anything huge. Like he might just take a couple fingers and channel some power and like close his grip on a sphere of uh, of Sidar. I'm sorry, Sidene, and it kind of like creates a shield around her. So he shields. I don't know if this is shielding or stealing.
Uh,
I think personally, it's more of what Gideon did to Leandrin. I think it's kind of the same deal.
hmm.
As I don't think it's a stealing. What do you think?
Well, if it isn't a stilling, they've clearly shown it as a stilling.
Really? Because
Yeah,
there's
I
still
think
it
so.
looks different than what happened to
I don't know. She says she's completely lost the ability to touch spirit. She's not shielded. So you think it's a tied off shield? Is that what you're going with?
well, I know if you have a tied off shield that you can't hold the power.
You can't, but eventually the shield, if it's tied off, will be breakable and you get it back. It unravels over time. But I mean,
But
fair enough. But if you,
she doesn't know that though, because the Aes Sedai
yeah.
in this world don't know how to tie off a shield.
So yeah, I mean I'll be happy if it turns out to be that. I
Yeah,
think
either
this is
way,
just
she
them
has a
going through the motions.
redemption. Well, if she gets stilled, there's a pathway for her to get her powers back. Um,
Yeah.
I guess if it's a tied off shield, there may be also a way.
Well, absolutely. If it's
Um,
tied off shield, it'll just run out. She can fight it until eventually she can channel again. It's just there's a issue but I again I just don't know why they did it. Like unless they're
yeah,
doing it as the removal of Moraine as the mentor figure, which they normally do in when she was quote unquote killed. So I'm wondering if this is to replace that moment.
yeah, I'm not quite sure yet because in the book
No.
she still has a couple other feats of power. One of which I don't think they're gonna use at all, which is when she Balefires Belial.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not gonna happen because I don't think
No,
Belial's gonna be in the show.
no,
And the
I
other
agree.
is when she Balefires some hounds, some
Yeah.
dark hounds.
Yeah.
So I'm not. Those are like the two feats of strength that she does like after this moment in the
Yeah.
story. So I'm not like her fate is unknown to me at this point, which is interesting to me as a reader. So I want to see how they're going to resolve this. I'm not angry at it. I just want to see what's going to happen next.
I think they are probably using this as the removing Moiraine as the mentor figure, and just doing it a lot earlier than I would have expected.
Now, when someone is stilled, can they sense the one power?
Nope.
Okay, then she's not stilled then.
Why not?
Because Balsamon says during this conversation, like right after he does that to her, he tells her, "Hey, how does it feel to be able to sense the power and not touch it, or something like
then
that?"
she's
To know
shielded.
that he says that. Okay, I got the quote. He says, "It must be an awful feeling to know the one power is there, just at the end of your fingertips, and not be able to touch it."
So she knows it's there. It doesn't say she can feel it. So she could be stilled.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm just saying, I think the implication was very much that he has removed her ability to channel.
To touch it, at least.
I think he's removed her ability to channel. I think that's what they imply.
Okay.
I mean, if they haven't, great, because like seriously, I hope not. But I
hope she makes a comeback of some sort. I don't want her to be out of play yet,
Yeah, and again, if they do, I think they've rushed it and they've made a mistake, because Rosamund Pike is a key character, key actress that they want to use. She's a key pull for the show, so they want her to be doing cool stuff and channeling, and so we know
that. Well, as far as like the Great Hunt, she goes off on her own, so maybe they're going to kind of construct some type of storyline.
She goes off on her own, but like she's like back as of the first couple of chapters. She goes up and speaks to the two women, gets attacked by the Dracha, and she's chasing Rand for a big chunk of the book.
Yes, but she is on her own for a little while though, because she sends Varen in her stead.
Yeah, but not for long.
So, yeah, it's not for long, but maybe they're gonna give her some type of arc where possibly
she goes and gets her abilities back.
Yeah, something like that. Like maybe they thought, hey, it's too boring to just have her talk to two old Aes Sedai. Maybe we just give her a little bit more, something more difficult for her to do.
But it's just, if you start curing stilling.
Oh shoot! Oh, here's Andrew. I'm sorry, I didn't see him there.
If you start curing stilling in like season 2, like what have you got for like Nynaeve to discover?
Well, that's why I don't think it's stilling. I'm hoping it's just a shield.
Yeah, but if it is, like, that's what they were doing to Logain. They were shielding him, so she knows what a shield is. So why would she be like?
I think it's because it's not an active shield. It might stump her a little bit.
Okay.
She's like, okay, if it's an active shield, at least we could do something to the person who did it to make them stop shielding you. Like, you can disrupt an active shielder physically. But if someone ties off a shield, doesn't matter what you do to that person, it's going to be stuck there until it deteriorates. Yeah.
Andrew, what do you think? Do you think she's stilled or shielded?
I don't know. I mean, it seemed to me like she was stilled, but like that would really ruin her role in the series if they did that. So I hope that she is shielded. Did you see that episode where Brandon Sanderson said he thought she was shielded rather than stilled?
I'm gonna go. I think Sanderson was reading the script, so he probably saw in the script that she was stilled. But everybody thinks that she was shielded, so I don't know, man. What was that? You're freezing up a little bit.
I think he said that in the episode when Sanderson commented, he said that it was his opinion that she was shielded. That's what Andrew said previously.
That's
I watched what Andrew just said.
Yeah, I watched that one. Sanderson did a live watch with the Dusty Wheel of episode 8, and Sanderson said that she was stilled instead of shielded.
Okay, that's the opposite of what Andrew just said.
Maybe he got him confused. But everyone was like, "No, she got shielded." Yeah. It's definitely controversial. It's a controversial thing to do at this point in the game, because she never gets stilled. Well, she gets stilled, but it's like a weird. It's not like a traditional
method.
Yeah, it's not the traditional way that you would think it happened by, but yeah. It's definitely a head scratcher for me. I'm pretty sure it's a head scratcher for you as well.
Yeah. Again, one of the things I always want to say is like, what is the benefit of it? And so I've been thinking about that, and the only thing I can think of is it's this idea
of no benefit. It's another shitty part.
The only thing I'm thinking is they're trying to just remove her as the mentor already, but the thing is, it's very clear that they have no intention of removing Rosamund Pike as a main actress. So, like, that's why it just falls apart for me. Like, if she was leaving the show here and it's basically their version of her going through the archway, so they can have her return via the tower, then like fine, you're like 3 books early, but hey, but like if it's just going to be like like a fake out and be like, oh, she's lost the power, and then like, oh no, she hasn't, then they're going to have to be careful with how many of those they do, otherwise they will take any stakes out of the show.
Well, I have a question.
Happens, like, no, it isn't.
They've done a lot of fake outs already.
Yeah, they have. But one of my questions for you, Tristram, is what typically happens to a warder when their Aes Sedai is stilled? I'm not quite certain about that.
Well, the bond is lost, but basically bond-wise, it's the same as if the Aes Sedai died. The bond is just destroyed.
That's what I thought.
However, it makes sense that they don't necessarily go as suicidal because the actual woman is not dead. And so, like one of the things that we saw when with the made-up warder, who basically killed himself.
McGregor.
Yeah. Well, the thing about him is that not only did he lose the bond, he also lost the person to whom he was bonded. So, but when she goes through the archway, we know that she doesn't actually die. But she is stilled. And when she does that, Lan says it's as if she's died. Like, that's in the books. He feels like she has died. That's what he thinks, because the bond just snaps. So that's the only context that we have for someone being stilled, and Lance basically believes that she's dead when it happens.
True. Okay. Yeah. This is a completely odd and different situation that we don't really have a lot of
context for.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how this plays out in season 2. Yeah. I'm assuming she's going to get her powers back.
If it's a tied-up shield, and it's their way of introducing tied-up shields, that could be interesting. But yeah, they just seem to be putting themselves in a hole that they don't need to put themselves in. But hey, whatever. Let's see what happens.
All right. So next scene, we get the Shinarans riding off to the wall. That's blocking Tarwin's gap. it looks really crazy. Like one side is just like a series of switchbacking stairways.
I love the fortress. I think like pretty freaking cool. Like look, design, very very effective. So like yeah, I was all about like the tactical advantages of such a place. Really liked it.
Yeah, so they show the glimpses of that, and back at Faldara, we see the women like constructing and putting together all the ballistas and anti-siege weapons on the walls. Lots of the townspeople are also leaving as well,
Including Min.
including men. And
Yeah, they gave her a haircut.
they gave her the hair. Well, she had the haircut. It's just that she had like a headband when she was working,
Yeah.
so you couldn't.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
No, it's not like, oh, she magically looks cooler because her hair looks normal. But no, she was just wearing a headband when she was bartending, so that's why her hair didn't look quite like it did when she was leaving.
Oh, okay. I think that makes her look more like Min in the books.
Right. That's kind of what I expected more. I was like, oh, now she really does look like Min when she's leaving. And one thing we do see is that Lady Amelisa is now wearing the armor.
Yeah, that was mentioned previously.
Mm-hmm. And we see a contingent of some, what do you call it? The Bun Brotherhood?
The Brotherhood of the Bun.
Brotherhood of the Bun. Yeah, we see Uno and Yokota are going up to the throne, and they start just taking some pickaxes to the foundation. At this point, we don't know what the hell they're doing. I was like, okay, this is strange. That's what they plan to do. Like they didn't go off with everybody else. They stayed behind with the women and the keep.
That small contingent, because obviously they've been given a very specific task.
Right. So we see the rest of the Emmenfielders and Loyal talking about what's going on in the city. Loyal's caught wind that they're looking for channelers and let Egwene and Nynaeve know. This leaves Perrin and Loyal together. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, we're going back to the Faldara, the wall, and Algamar is there with his peeps. They all got crossbows and they're getting ready, pointing them all through the murder holes in the walls. And finally, they start assaulting the wall itself, led by at least one Myrddraal for sure. So
I think they mentioned earlier that there must be. They mentioned that they figured out how many Trollocs there were from how many Myrddraal there were, and they mentioned there was like 100 or something.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of. Because if there's 100 Myrddraal, there's like 100 Trollocs per.
Yeah, like that's exactly what they said. They said like that's how they counted them. They're like, there's loads of Myrddraal, so that basically we're humped.
Well, at least they're keeping with that canon.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take that too. And then next we got the women gathering. Finally, Nynaeve and Egwene.
Did that whole did that assault of the wall remind you of the assault in the two towers, the big epic battle at Helm's Deep?
A little bit.
No more than
it
any
felt like
other.
They were maybe trying. It felt like they were maybe trying to mimic that a little bit, just in terms of what's happening and how it was shot.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe they did get some influence from there.
That wasn't my vibe, other than like any massive attack by gigantic horde of minions against fortified wall. But
yeah, that is a really common thing for sure. Yeah,
it is, and theirs is quite different because they're within the wall, aren't they, and things like that. But it was still, I mean, absolutely, and certainly, like I'm not one who always pays attention to how things are shot. So, like, I'm not going to be a person who'd be good at spotting that, which you might be able to do. But I like this stuff. This bit I think looks really good. I think it looks like how people might try and fight in this sort of situation. And so yeah. Oh, what is going on?
Did something happen? Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just my PC was plugged in, my laptop was plugged in, but my wife had turned off the plug socket itself. So you have to do a switch to make the sockets in this room work because it's in the extension, and the transistor switch was off. So even though it was plugged in, it wasn't. Sorry, I'm back now.
All right, so next we go back to Loyal and and Perrin, and
Yep.
I don't know, Loyal is just the best. Perrin's like, how can we just sit here while our friends are out there fighting? And he's like, well, I'm standing. And Perrin like immediately loses his shit because he can't deal with Loyal's literalism at the moment. Yeah, Perrin's upset because right at this moment he feels like he can't do jack. He feels useless. And that's an interesting thing that they're doing to him in this first season, is that he's not being able to play a pivotal role at this point in the game, which I believe will probably have some type of impact on his character in the upcoming season.
Yeah, they're trying to show that Perrin is trying to be a pacifist, but he's struggling with it. He hasn't fully accepted it or denied it.
Right. And I know Loyal is trying to be a good friend, and he gives him the advice, well, if you don't know what to do or how you can help, all you have to do is ask.
Yeah.
Why do you guys think that they added that thing with Perrin trying to adopt a way of belief? And also, did you see that thing that Brandon Sanderson said about how he was disappointed that Perrin didn't really have an arc in this season?
Well, he didn't have a conclusive arc, like nothing that was resolved.
Yeah, so Perrin,
no.
All of Perrin's stuff starts and none of it ends.
Mm-hmm. Like no climax, no conclusion to his arc here.
Yeah, correct. But the thing is that while that is annoying to a lot of people, and like I know like a lot of the people who were like watching the show were like, my goodness, I was so certain that Perrin was going to like pop off in this episode, because there seemed to be all these like promises that like he's going to do a wolf thing, or he's going to do like a berserker thing, because that's what we've seen hinted at in previous episodes, and then it doesn't happen. And so I think that's a bit of a problem, really, is that they hinted at it too much and then didn't deliver. But actually, if you look at the book, Perrin doesn't do anything crazy here. Like,
right.
Because Perrin's arc is over several books, and really,
they have totally they totally invented a whole bunch of crazy shit that everyone else does.
Yeah, correct. But you'll notice that Matt doesn't have an arc going on right now either.
Right.
Well, yeah, because he left the show.
Yeah.
But even in the books, he didn't have one at the end of the book.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So what I'm saying is, but I guess one of the points is they could have improved that, right? This is their chance to do something better than what's in the books, but they have not done so. But a lot of people are like annoyed with Perrin, but actually, I quite like it because I like a slow burn. But the problem is with an 8-episode series, that doesn't really suit slow burn.
And we'll have to assume second season is 8 as well. That's what it sounds like from at least what Sanderson has said.
Yeah.
So, So yeah, next scene, back into Rand's little dream world. He's holding Joya, who is his fake child.
Not
And
fake, not fake, from a different reality.
Yeah, a flicker, a flicker.
Because if they made different choices, this is the child he would have.
Right. Well, it's a possible
That's what makes it so tempting.
Child.
Is that that if he would do these things, if he would agree and remake the world in his image, this is a reality he could have. That's why it's tempting, because the Dark One is talking some real stuff. And like if it wasn't even possible, then it would be no temptation whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the problems in books normally, is that normally when the bad guy says to the good guy, aha, you can have everything, but the Dark One is able to actually say, I've seen different realities, and in some of them you can have this because of the way Talamir looks. And he can literally say, I'll bring you back from the dead. You can be immortal. And he's proved it with the Forsaken. So it's like one of the reasons you can see why people fall to the dark in this series, because the Dark One is straight up there with his promises, whereas the light, the god doesn't speak to them directly, etc., and they have to have faith. Whereas the Dark One is like, hey, here's my power front and center.
That seems like a common thing in shows, like whether it's directly a religious thing or not, like the powers of dark are always more directly involved with what's going on, and then the powers of light are like not doing as much, and you have to rely on faith more and do more things yourself.
I guess that is true, but often I've seen some shows like the dark guys constantly do like a scam. They're constantly promising, but there's no delivery. One of the things about this Dark One is like he clearly shows he can bring you back from the dead. Like done. Like here's an example. This person you killed, they're back. Oh, you can legitimately and have paid off on it. But yeah, I absolutely believe, like you say, and Andrew, this is an ongoing theme, but it's just interesting to see that I think Jordan, one of the things he did is he gave the devil not just teeth, but like he made him clever. And so he's presenting a level of evidence and saying, get this god to match me. Yeah. Let's see what he offers you. I'm offering you the marriage you want, the child you want, the peace you want. What's he got for you? And I think that's a tempting argument, that even if you know he's the Dark One, if he's going to give you those things, does it really matter if he's the Dark One? And I think that's a very clever thing that Jordan did, and they seem to be pulling at least a little bit of that on, which I'm pleased with.
Right. So, Rand's back in this dream world, and he's starting to question it, the validity of it all. I think first he asks, like, hey, where are we? And she's like, oh, this is where we're at. This is what happened after you were at the eye. She actually draws him back into the world, into him believing it, and he starts to believe again. And then Ishi like puts a pause on everything, and he starts to interject himself in there, like the baby. Like when I say put a pause, like he literally like pauses reality for everybody except him and Rand.
Yep.
So he tries to basically tell him about what the power can do, and he tells Rand that he can remake the world in any way that he wants. And he tries to convince him that in order to do these things, he has to kind of trust in his guidance a bit. And flashing back, there's a weird dual reality thing going on here because he's performing this in Rand's dream world, and he's also talking to Moraine at the same time. And she's like telling Moraine, she's like, what do you think is going to happen? You think he's going to choose the light or the dark? And at this point, Moraine takes a dagger and puts it to his throat.
Yeah, very dark.
Right. And, Moraine's telling him, well, whatever the outcome, if he goes to the dark, this is going to end here.
It's interesting because though we see Moraine do a lot of things, I don't think we ever see Moraine in the series straight up murder someone who is good. Like, she lets them die, but I don't think we ever see Moraine kill someone who is good on purpose.
And they added that whole thing about how if he goes to the dark side, I will kill him.
No, she has been like that actually.
Really? I didn't remember that. Yeah.
She stated this to in the book. She told them, if I think if the Dark One gets him, that she would be forced to kill them, basically.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that.
But she's I think that she will oppose them definitely. I don't know if she ever says I will kill you. She's like if you choose the other side, I will be against you for sure.
No, she says I'll kill you myself. In the books, she does say she would kill them herself.
Then after this episode, at some point, Dusty, you do a word search and you send me that page. But we'll carry on.
Okay, I'll try to find it. I know
I'll accept it because you're usually right. But if you're sure of that quote, I'd love to see it.
I know it's in the first. It's before they get to any town, right after they leave in the Two Rivers.
Then it should be easily findable. That means it's in the first 5 chapters. So.
Well, anyway, there's kind of this standoff between them, and we have. The interesting thing is we have Ishmael trying to convince him to be dark, and on the outside we have Moraine there holding Rand, telling him what the consequence will be if he does turn dark. Rand's totally unaware of what's going on outside of the dream. So there's kind of these stakes here, which I think are very appropriate. I actually really enjoyed this part of this episode. And I thought it was really interesting how this part played out.
This is my favorite part of the episode, the whole sequence with Ishmael, even though it's different from the books, and it's
not crazy different though.
I still prefer the way they did it in the books, and I know people have said that Ishmael is different in this episode than he is at this point in the books, but I really like this actor's performance. And I said, that's why it's one of the only parts of the episode that I actually really like a lot.
I think the actor does Ishmael very well, and I have absolutely no problem with the Ishmael stuff. The dream sequence is taken from Egwene's alternative future, but it's definitely something that the Dark One would promise, and it's exactly in keeping with the Dark One's kind of manipulation, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Dusty, you still there?
Still there, Dusty? I thought I heard him.
While we're waiting for him to get back, what did you think of the first? What do you think of the cold open? So where it shows the Age of Legends.
I like that actually.
Yeah, me too. I really like that.
Cool how they had Luke there. Yeah.
Oh, you back, Dusty?
Yeah, I was just trying to see, hey, can I get my Bluetooth to work? No, still not working.
You've got to give up with that sucker. That's for another week.
Yeah, so now we got a scene back at Baldara, and they're finally done wrecking this pedestal. Well, actually, they're not quite done, but Perrin and
Loyal.
and Loyal are like, hey, what could we do to help? So now we're getting to something I found quite controversial. Here at the so here back at Taran's Gap, the Trollocs are starting to overpower the forces there, and we see Algomar getting what, speared?
Yep, he's killed.
I was like, really? Really? You guys are doing him dirty like that?
That's exactly the way he would have died had Rand not shown up. Like, he totally would have fought till the death. That is exactly.
Yeah, but he's a great captain. It's Agilmar, man.
Yeah,
he survives till the last battle.
He survives
he
the
does.
last battle. Yeah.
And it seems annoying that they're moving him, but I think some of the 5 great captains won't even exist. So
well, they're gonna have to have Rodolai Teralda. Like he's probably the most notable one.
Are you kidding? I think you'll be disappointed. I think he's the most likely to disappear.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Like, Garth Bryn has far more to do in the books. Rodel isn't even introduced till like book 8. Like, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but he's like a big part of like the Shan Chan resistance and all that.
Yeah, but if I was a betting man, my friend, I would give you $50 right now that he will not be in this series. But we'll see. I don't.
Well, I'm fine with Agilmar like dying because he actually doesn't play that big of a role in the last battle. Like his role is, oh, I got mind controlled by Grendel, and I'll just step down because I'm unreliable.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I think I'm worried about all the captains. I think they all have much smaller roles. Oh well.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, there's Pedro Nile. Well, I don't know if they're going to introduce him or not. Yeah, he's definitely a second book character. We'll see. So yeah,
I hope he's in. Let's see.
Yeah, so after Agilmar goes down, we go back into the dream sequence, and we see Rand is getting pressured by Ishamael. His pressure includes slitting the fake Egwene's throat, forcing Rand to kind of make a decision about his intention of what he wants to do there. At least he's trying to. Seems like Ishamael is trying to force him to use the one power to like solve an issue. So he does that, and Rand freaks out. Well, the reason why Ishamael does that is he tries to convince Rand that, hey, this might be a real experience you might be having. And that's when you see Rand freak out when he sees that. Because he can't stand to see that happen to Egwene, even if it is in a dream.
Yeah.
So anyway, he reverses that and Ishamael's like, you can make this real, and Rand is curious on how to do that. Back in the real world, he's having to stare down with Moiraine. Moiraine starts to dig that dagger and draw blood. I was like, dang, she's getting a little ruthless there.
Yeah, this whole part, like I said, was actually really exciting, even though a lot of the rest of the episode disappointed me.
Yeah.
And I love this next part. In walks Ped and Fane. Probably one
yeah.
of my favorite on-screen personalities in the show so far. I don't know, he just kind of commands. Like he doesn't even have to say anything. He just he just has a swagger that just commands respect.
Yeah, when
Anyway,
actors give really great performances, you can tell what emotions they're trying to convey just without them even saying anything, just by looking at their eyes. It's really great.
yeah, but just the way that Pot on Fane walks, it's like, damn, like a pimp.
Yeah.
uh, so like he walks up, he does like some secret knock, and like these guards are like, how do you know that? And he has two fades with them, and the
Yeah.
fades just like immediately behead like the two guards, and he just casually like walks past them.
Yeah, and this is like the first time that we've seen that Paladin Fane is like there's been hints
Like-
in this show already that he's not normal, like the little grin he did at Winter's Night and stuff. But we maybe people have maybe suspected that he was bad news or maybe a dark friend, but no one thought, like just on what the show's shown us, that he was actually one of the masterminds, one of the people in charge. But the fact that he has the Fades basically working for him is what establishes that. And in the books, it's when the Fades were like following him, and he put spikes through the eyeless holes. That's when we realized, oh my goodness, this guy can take out a Fade. He is seriously. He's not just like some dark friend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Fane is on his own mission. So going back, finally, the Shinarans who were tasked with beating up that pedestal with pickaxe, they finally get to what they were getting to, and it's a box smaller than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Oh,
But,
I don't think so. Because what do you think's in it?
Well, I thought, of course, the horn was going to be in there.
So it's big enough to hold a horn, isn't it?
Well, it is, but I was expecting like the book to cover horn, which appears to be like a big old French horn. But I'm guessing it's going to be like one of those Viking horns, maybe.
Yeah, or even like a bugle or a trumpet.
I think it's gonna. Yeah. I think they're gonna go Viking horn, like a carved out horn.
It doesn't need to be
That would make it
huge.
seem more
It
stereotypical fantasy.
So I think they're gonna go more fantasy instead of getting like a bugle or like a little musical instrument.
Yeah.
So yep, they find that horn. Trollocs. They basically tells him, yeah, this is the fabled horn, but we're not going to be the ones that are using it. We're saving it for the dragon.
Well, they don't tell
because they think it's the last battle. I forgot to mention the Shinarians believe that this is the last battle, so that's why they're retrieving this horn.
That's another thing. That's another problem that I had with this episode. I mean, it's kind of a minor thing, I guess, but why even mention the last battle and that people are thinking that this is the last battle? Like, it seems like another red herring for people who watch the show who haven't read the books.
Yeah.
I think it's just justification for them to break out the horn.
Yeah.
Because we know the horn has to be in the next season.
Sounded at the last battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing too. Like, I don't understand why they had to add the horn to this season at all.
Well,
because they gotta condense everything down. You know, they don't have as many episodes as they need to tell the story.
Yeah. But that's one of my problems with this episode here. With this episode, though, they just threw a bunch of shit in there, like way too much stuff going on. And usually I prefer faster paced stuff, but this is it's like feels like a clusterfuck to some extent.
Yeah, I think remember the horn is found at the Eye of the World. I mean that is where it is found.
Yeah, I remember Dusty telling me it is found at the end of the book, but I mean specifically having it where it is, changing the location of it.
Yeah.
They constructed the ending a bit different here. Like the Eye of the World is a totally different thing now than what it was in the book.
It's not a repository of power, but we'll get to that in a minute when we talk about how they did the blowing up of the Trollocs.
Yeah, so that's basically the next scene is we have the circle, and
another weird, totally whole weird added sequence that kind of pissed me off.
Melissa, yeah, I understand what they're trying to do, but man, did it break some of the lore here. People have said that this is what they call it bad writing. I don't know what you want to call it. This episode was written by Rafe, and I don't know, people just seem to have an issue with stuff that Rafe writes because he tends to break the lore the most, it seems.
Yeah, which is bad because he's the showrunner. He should be the closest to the lore.
So yeah, they start their circle, and a quick shot back to Perrin, and he's like, "Hey, what the hell's going on?" He sees Pat and Fane, and he grabs an axe. Does he grab it or stare at it? I think he stares at it.
No, he picks it up, but he eventually picks it up.
Oh, he does pick it up? He
does pick it up, but he doesn't use it.
Yeah, so we go back to Rand and Ishii. He tries to manipulate Rand with Joya.
Yep.
And it seems like right now he's kind of giving him a tutoring lesson on how to channel. So we see Rand, I guess we would call this him consciously channeling. And we see him being instructed to do it, to let it happen. And then at the last moment, you see the taint kind of creeping in there in the weaves. He taunts Moiraine by saying, "Hey, he's channeling right now, and you don't even know what he's going to do with that channeling." And she presses the knife deeper and draws more blood.
It does show that her point is like irrelevant, because if he turns, how will she even know until it's too late? Anyway.
Yeah. And how will she kill him, fast enough before, well, I don't even know if Ishamael's any good at healing or not. Who knows? Probably. But back to the women's.
At least that part, I don't know if he can only do this in this dream that he created, but when he slits the Dream McQueen's throat, he heals it, right? So that might not be his real powers, though, of course.
Yeah.
Well, he could do basically anything in that dream world.
Yeah. Is zero.
So we see the circle powering up some more. Now the Shinarans are holding the box, and then they hear a commotion. Back to Rand, he's like channeling with all the taint and stuff. And because there's a lot of quick cuts in here, I'm just going to go, we get the Trolloc battle. So what'd you guys think? I was kind of, I would say I was a little disappointed. And the reason I was disappointed is because I feel that this is going to cheapen Dumais Wells.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, they're kind of blowing their load a little too quick here with like this type of channeling.
The thing,
well,
the thing especially is, this happens.
Especially
it kind of happens, but Rand does it.
Yeah, it's really weird. Rand pulls the whole of the eye, which is in the books, is a huge, huge well of untainted male power. And then he appears at Tarwin's Gap, blows everyone up. No one realizes it's him, and then he goes. It is not a very nice, it's not a very good, very clear ending. And it messes up things for later books. And Jordan kind of just says, look, just go with me here. So it's one of the reasons why this ending, even though it's not my fave, I can accept somewhat, because basically it wasn't good in the first place.
Yeah, I'm not that
and this is
upset about them
what they
like
do.
fighting the Trollocs at all. It's just something that
it's
happens
outward.
afterwards.
Well, it's also I'd have liked it to have been a full circle of 13 full sisters, something like that. And it does again accelerate things so quickly, like Nynaeve and Egwene being in a circle this early, people being able to be burnt out within the circle, all this jazz. And this, one of the other problems is, one of the biggest problems for me is who leads the circle, because they say that she does not have enough ability to channel to have even gone to the tower. So she went there to train, but that was it. We also know that the Aes Sedai do not learn weaves of combat, because you barely do any of that as an Aes Sedai, because you're supposed to not use the power for combat hardly ever. So she wouldn't have had a clue how to freaking do what she does. How would she know how to weave
so much
weaves?
I don't know.
If you're
Some have natural ability. Yeah, like.
But
we can chalk up the power of this particular circle to Egwene and Nynaeve. Like,
absolutely, no problem with that. But I'm just saying, the woman clearly has barely been trained. So where did she figure out how to, hey, I'll just weave lightning bolts, when fully trained Aes Sedai can't do so later?
Well, here's what I'll say. Nynaeve definitely did that when they got captured.
Yeah, and she shouldn't have done that either. You know my opinion on that. But yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also established in the books, fairly or unfairly, that if you are powerful, you are more likely to be unnaturally do stuff as well.
Yeah, and Amalisa's not powerful. I know.
It's so weak. She couldn't make it to accepted. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, they imply that.
No, they outright say it. Like, you went to train and you couldn't become a sister.
Well, did they say because she was weak, or she didn't want to take the test?
No, because there's a slight apologetic, sorry you weren't good enough.
Yeah, that conversation with her and Moraine, right?
Yeah,
well, because there's a couple different ways, right, that you could flunk out. One is refusing the test, and the other is being too weak.
But I'm just saying it's clearly implied that she's just not strong enough to be an Aes Sedai. But hey,
I know it's one of those. It has to be one of those two reasons. I wasn't really sure which one it was.
Well, it's pretty. I think it's pretty clear. But
yeah, whether or not we know that she didn't pass the test, which shows that she has control under calmness, which is probably why we see her drink the power in so much that she just burns herself out. Like, she hadn't learned the control of the power, and we get to see how reckless it is. At least
let's say we accept the law here.
Yeah, I know that doesn't work. That's not how circles work.
But even if we do accept the law here completely, there's still a problem, and it's the problem you mentioned, in that if this is what 5 women can do, right? Just 5 women. Yes, one of them is Nynaeve, but if they can do that, then what threat is there now for the rest of the show?
I don't know. I guess the threat is the burnout. I guess that's kind of what they're saying here, is if you try to use this much power, this is the consequence.
It's Nick.
And that's good, but what if next time I only need to kill 50 Trollocs? Then I'm not even going to be close. And what about when I start using, what am I going to do now with a circle of 13 women? Because a circle of 5 can do this. How am I going to upscale? And I think that is
Hey
one
Nick,
of the
mom's low
genuine
and I'm
problems.
helping her right now, so she'll call you back, okay?
Hey,
All right,
Andrew, we
love
can
you.
hear you.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
sure. Well, there you
do you know
go.
what I'm saying? I think so. Even if I accept the law here that
Is
circles
that
work
enough?
like this,
Okay.
which they can
You
absolutely
okay? I can
say
go
if
back
they
to
want
my
to say
phone.
that, that's absolutely fine. But if they do, they've gone too high too quick, and so now it's just like, yeah. And I was worried about that the moment I saw Maureen channeling in the first episode. I was like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Like
they're just showing.
Like Dusty said, they blew their load too quickly. Like that's actually a good analogy. It's like an excited teenager getting laid for the first time. Holy shit, this is so amazing. 8 seconds later, oh, I'm done already. Holy shit, that was fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We'll have to see what happens. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
happy about like all the lore breaking that occurred in this episode. Like, it seems like it's the most lore breaking episode that we've had thus far.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm happy that they improved some of the stuff. Like, I actually think what they're doing with Fane is much better than what they did in the books.
Yeah.
It's more exciting. Like, yeah, Fane's not getting captured and spilling his guts, but I think this Fane here is way more menacing, at least early on, than the Fane that we got in the books.
Cool.
And I think this Fane is definitely knocking out of the park here. But yeah, this whole situation with the channeling and the circle is like, oh man. I know you're trying to match what Rand would have done,
That's what they've
but
tried to do.
man,
Yes.
you need to throw more sisters at it at least,
yeah. Like this is
or
so lore breaking. I hate this whole thing, especially like the part that we haven't gotten to yet, where Nynaeve heals the queen and brings her back to life, which Rand does in that one book. Like he tries to do that with that girl who dies in that one book, and even he can't do it because it's like so forbidden and so taboo, and like it's so even though he's so fucking powerful, he can't do it. Like her doing it in season one, like what the fuck is that shit? Like holy man,
Yeah, we'll get to more on that because I don't want to stick on this point too long because I could talk about it all night and be angry about it.
yeah,
But yeah, let's just go up to the next thing because that's just what happens. Is a quick scene. They blow up some Trollocs and it cuts back to Rand. Um, and Rand has kind of like a revelation here. He realizes he may have the power to do whatever he wants to do, but what about the people around him? So one of the things he tells Ishamael is like, what about what Egwene wants?
yeah,
And he starts seeing like things differently. Because love is a two-way street. It's not like,
yeah,
oh, I get to impose my will and not give anybody else the
yeah. And
will.
and he knows that's not what Egwene wanted, right? Even though that's what he wants.
Right. So he kind of comes to his senses. He has um,
Clarity.
an epiphany, like a eureka moment here. And we see this interesting scene where he, like, well, one, Moraine immediately takes the knife away from his throat, so she kind of senses something here. Rand gains consciousness, and he stands up and faces Ishii, palm out, with the Angreal, or Sangreal, if you want to call it, in his palm. And he focuses a bunch of power, and we keep flipping back and forth between the dream reality and the real world. And once all the power is focused, he blasts it out at Ishamael. Ishamael is smiling though.
Yeah, I like that how he has that little moment right before he disappears. It's like obvious foreshadowing if you read the books. Like, aha! I like how they kind of did that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the end of book 6.
Yeah. He wanted him to channel.
Right.
So now that he's channeled, it's like, it has begun.
Yeah, and if you look closely at the ground, he's cracked the Aes Sedai
Seals.
symbol. Well, we don't even know what it is, but this is a giant seal to the Dark One. I know they changed
showed
what they
clearly
are
by
and what they look like.
Yeah,
But they
and that's
said-
that's another thing too. Like if you've read the books, of course, you know that he's not actually the Dark One because the Dark One is in a prison of seven seals, and in the later books, Rand decides to break the seven seals to remake them. And like I hope they still have all that stuff, all those details in terms of the Dark One's prison and everything.
Well, I'm glad they introduced the seal because wasn't there a seal in the box at the Eye of the World?
Yep.
I don't remember.
Yes. And
I don't
it's
know.
pro-
There
yes,
was?
there
Okay.
is. That's one of that's one of the things that's in there with the dragon banners in there, a broken seal, and the horn wrapped in the banner.
Yeah, so I guess we're just missing the banner. So we have the horn. Well, we assume we have the horn. They did not open the box, right?
Yeah.
So we don't even know
And
if
they
the
didn't say
horn's
it was the
actually in
horn.
there.
They just said it's something for the last battle.
We have a
In
broken
the box.
seal. We have a broken seal that Rand has broken somehow, maybe unintentionally, but maybe this was Shamael's plan all along, which I think that may be the case here.
That's certainly what they're implying.
Yeah.
I
So,
tricked you into breaking the seal.
Yeah, that's what the smile, I think, is for. It's
Yeah.
like, yes, I accomplished my task. We go back to Perrin looking around after he's heard the commotion. And man, well, I'm glad some
Yeah,
things
why
got
did you do
confirmed
this?
for me here that I was really worried about.
This part
But
pissed
we
me off
have,
too. Even if this is a red herring too, which it almost certainly is. Like, why are you doing all this shit, man? Like, come on.
drama.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of stabbed Shinarans. I don't know if I saw Uno specifically there as being one of the ones who got stabbed.
No, I think we'll see Uno again.
I don't know.
Because I would have been upset if Uno got killed.
Before he gets to do anything.
Loyal gets stabbed.
Yeah.
Yeah, why'd they do that? Why?
I have I don't know. I have no clue. Drama. But he's clearly alive the last time we see him.
It's to imply that, maybe he's dead, but he isn't.
Yeah, I already got confirmation that he's not dead. Because I was like pretty pissed if he would have been dead.
I don't think they would kill him.
No, they wouldn't, because he is like
a major
he's in the
character.
opening credits. He's in like characters in the opening credits tend not to die like that.
Unless you're Sean Bean.
Yeah, unless you're Sean Bean. Yeah, that's true. He was in the opening credits and he got his head chopped off.
But that was a very different series.
Yeah, and I hadn't read the books by then, but if anyone had, they would have known that was coming.
He's good at characters full of honor who get their head not who necessarily who get their heads chopped off, but who die tragically.
I think, well, one, this makes Fane a particularly dangerous person. Man, is Fane like my favorite villain so far? He has less screen time by Ishamael, but man, he doesn't have to do much to be hated.
My favorite villain so far is that Dark Friend in episode 3.
Yeah, I think she was really good. I agree with you. I think she was excellent.
I like Fane. He's like, he starts getting philosophical, like a little bit with Perrin when he's sitting there talking to him. But now we get to that fated scene where we get the Aes Sedai. Well, they're not even Aes Sedai. I think they're all Wilders. I don't think any of these women are actually Aes Sedai.
No, because they're clearly not. You know,
Yeah,
get any woman
so
who can channel even a trickle, which is again why it's like, oh, and yet look what they can do. And if people who can only channel a trickle can do this,
yeah, so
then
all the Trollocs are dead at this point.
well,
But she is like so addicted to the power that she can't stop herself. And she's burning everybody out, which is weird because if you know how the rules work, anybody that doesn't want to be involved with the circle can exit the circle.
yeah.
What a
So
shocker! Another canon breaking moment.
I don't know if this is because they don't know how to form a circle. Is this like if someone is in a circle that's untrained, can this
Well, the
happen?
thing is, to be in a circle, you have to open yourself up. Someone can't. The only unwilling circles that we know of are Adam, right?
Okay. I know, yeah.
And Adam work very, very differently, and they use a ter'angreal to violate the rule. But if you want to be in a circle, you have to put yourself on the edge of the power, but not seize it. And then the person who is taking the power pulls it through you, like they would do with an angreal. And you have to allow them to do so. And if you do so, they are then in control of the weaves. You can then stop, but you can't take control of the circle from them without their permission. Like, it doesn't matter if you're the strongest. Once you've entered the circle, you cannot take control of it unless it is surrendered to you by the person who's in control. So it isn't about power once you're in the circle.
Yeah, they're definitely changing the rules up here.
But also, like, how would she know how to make a circle? She couldn't even complete her training. And they don't know how to make a circle. Like, they're not trained. And anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The point is, it happened. It replaces the Rand thing, but it is a problem because it has gone too high too quick. And it is a problem because, I mean, they're just going to have to suggest that the girls are just like super intuitive and have just learned everything immediately. But it's a shame because that means, and actually, to be fair, it's probably because
They kind of have to cut down on training montages.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to.
They're just gonna get to the White Tower and be like, yeah, we already know how to do everything. And I hate that trope. I really, really do. I love it when someone has to learn and doesn't get to just skip everything. But that's almost certainly what's going to have to happen. But it wearies me. I was kind of hoping they might do what they did with traveling to Tar Valon and say 1 month later kind of thing. But it doesn't fill me with any hope for that.
So Amalisa, she gets shard bladed, basically.
now you're mixing your fandoms.
Well, that's what it looks like. It looks like she got hit by a shard blade.
It does, yeah, that's a good point.
Like her eyes are all burnt out. I was like, man, I bet Sanderson's upset when he gets his TV adaptation. Like, man.
I think his TV adaptation will be
the shard blades are like the best part of Stormlight Archive.
Yeah. So basically, we got a preview of what getting shard bladed is going to look like.
Yeah.
So she gets burnt out and takes Egwene with her, but I guess Nynaeve like sucks that burnt outness onto herself, and she gets burnt out.
Yeah.
Man,
they're not dead. They can't
doesn't make any sense. Like, why did they do that? I don't understand.
And basically, they just want to show that anyone with the power can heal, not just Nynaeve. But the thing is, they've completely removed the need to learn weaves, like in this show. That is one of the things I find a bit frustrating, because like they both heal naturally, they both do everything, And like it makes sense with Nynaeve to an extent because she did heal using her herbs and stuff. She's been using the power subconsciously for some time, but now we just have that, like, because like Nynaeve pulls it onto herself, and then obviously she's like burnt and going down, and then Egwene heals her.
Yeah,
And
so I am
like,
not
how?
happy about that at all. Like, Egwene is not a good healer in the book. I don't
Yeah,
think she
no.
can heal at all.
Well, she can heal. She can heal because she's good at pretty much everything, but she's just not. But it's not her speciality at all, and she certainly needs to be trained in how to do it. And she is not at
Yeah.
this point got any of that training, none whatsoever. It just doesn't
Well,
make sense.
that, and can you heal somebody that's been burnt out?
Yeah,
Oh.
well, I don't think
You
this
shouldn't
is
be able to do that. Like, no one should be able to do that, really.
Well, they're not burnt out, I don't think, in the way that we would use the word burnt out in the books. In the books, if you say someone is burned out, they have lost the ability to channel. You've stilled yourself by over channeling.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think that can be what this is. I think it's like they're going to say in this show that if you over channel, you hurt yourself. Like
Physically.
like frayed cord, yeah, and that she's healed her physically. That's the only thing that they can possibly be meaning. They can't mean burnt out because
at least if they do that, it would kind of have consistent rules, even though they break canon.
Yeah, they need to be
consistent.
They need to be consistent with themselves. They can break all the canon from the books, but they must be internally consistent. Because, like, for example, the Harry Potter series did this, okay? The Harry Potter series changed things from the books fairly significantly, but it was somewhat consistent with itself. And so it can be accepted and is a very good adaptation. If they're not consistent with themselves, they've got a problem. And that's why my biggest issue with this isn't that it happened, it's that the fact that this has happened now invalidates everything else. Because if we can heal from near death, then what is the threat? Unless Nynaeve is unconscious, it doesn't matter who gets stabbed or like hurt or blasted with the power. She will just heal them. If she heals Moraine Stilling in episode 1 of season 2, then just like there's just no threat.
Oh,
no
man.
fear. Like,
that would be so terrible if she does that. Oh man.
I know.
I hope that doesn't happen.
But I really hope so too, Andrew, because do you remember, like, when you were reading the books, like when the Tower coup happens and Swan and Leanne are stilled, that was just such a big deal.
Right.
Yeah. It was like, that's it. It's over for them. And it wasn't just reversible.
Well, that's why I'm hoping that this is not a stilling and it's just like a well, at least with Moraine, I'm hoping it's just a shield. Like, I don't know. We'll have to see. I think it's the reason why we're having issue is that it's almost like this episode causes anxiety. Because we really want this show to be good. But we're just kind of worried.
This is why one of the thoughts I had after I watched the episode was, okay, I shouldn't regret having read the books based on a series after having watched an episode based on it. Like, if it's better to have not read the books to watch the series, because I really think that I would like the episode more if I hadn't read the books, because I would know about all these canon breaking things. That's not a good sign. Like, they should at least, like you said, Tristram, at least if they're breaking canon, they should do it in an internally consistent way. And they shouldn't like ruin all of the things that are done in way more effective ways in the books.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna have to see how they handle them. That's just what we have to wait.
Because they've done well in some of the episodes, and we've even commented, haven't we, that there has been some really good stuff, and some of the things
like episode 4 is my favorite episode, and it's very different from the books, so it can be done in a really good way.
Agreed. And the other thing is, like, like, one of the things that is important to note is they've done things like shown us things that happen in the books that we just never got to see. like the conversation
Mhm.
between Lews Therin and the Tamriel seat, like
Yeah.
the cold open with Rand's mom or Swan's
Mhm.
childhood.
Yeah.
This stuff. Give me all of it, right? Just give me all of it. That's
Mhm.
great. But there's a lot of stuff that they've just added that did you need to? Were there not other things you could have done and more of the actual books you could have shown us and made it really, really cool? And so that's
Yeah.
just a bit of a shame for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But so yeah, I knew the
Here's
ending was
one
going to be
thing.
weird because the ending
One thing
isn't
I
good
think
in the
they're
book.
one thing I think they're using to justify what Egwene did is because of this speech that is kind of happening at the same time that they're dealing with this,
Right.
that they're kind of reaffirming. So one thing that is happening right now, while all of this is going down, is Fane is explaining his motives. And his motives are, I was tasked to find you guys because the Dark One has not ever seen 5 Ta'veren come out of the same village. So in this, they're calling Egwene and I believe Nynaeve Ta'veren in this.
Yeah. Yeah, and they've been
So
saying that all along because
I'm
of the
not
whole.
sure if that's. I know
That's
Ta'veren.
why they were saying that it can be any of the 5 of you because
Yeah.
you 5 are Ta'veren. That's why they maybe you guys, because it's gonna have to be one of you Ta'veren who is it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and
So,
they say too. Is it Padan Fane who says that Rand may be the dragon, but you all have important parts to play, something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, because you're all Ta'veren. Like he's establishing you're all important.
And it is basically true to the books. Like they are
100%.
all very powerful and important characters in the books.
100%. No problem with that. I think that's a really good point.
yeah. So Fane talks about the requirement of balance, and he says that at least one of you are going to turn to the dark,
Yep.
and they try to
Maybe all of you.
allude, maybe all of you, and they allude that possibly Matt might be that person.
Yeah.
I hope they don't do that, man.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see. We just gotta keep our fingers crossed and see what happens. We don't know yet,
True.
because I like Matt, but
Yeah.
I'm very hoping that he becomes the Matt that I like from the books.
But they've been the thing is, this is like Padan Fane talking. The guy can lie. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Padan Fane. Yeah.
And the Dark One does say to them all the time, like, you're gonna fall, you always give in the end, and then he doesn't.
Yeah.
And so it's absolutely fine for them to say things like this as long as they don't just have them all entirely change their character.
Yeah.
which would be a shame and an unnecessary shame.
Okay, so after his speech, we get back to Rand and Moiraine. Rand. Well, here's Rand wants to go off on his own because he fears that, and this is very Rand from the book, he fears that because he's now a Chandler, and he has the ability to really hurt people and possibly go mad. So he wants to distance himself from everybody. And I know it plays a little different here. It does have a little bit of.
I don't get why they did this either. Like, okay,
I don't mind it.
Spend your eyes today way to pretend that I'm dead because I don't want anyone to be with me now.
Well, this is basically the second book or book 3. This is book 3. They're just stepping it up a bit.
Way ahead with like.
They have to, man. They only got 8 seasons.
Why do they need to like? I get them changing the ending because, like, a lot of people say Robert Jordan himself even didn't like the ending of Eye of the World, but I don't get this change. This is one of many that I just don't get.
I get it. It sounds like they're actually putting Rand on the path of book 3 as of now.
Yeah. Yes. And he's gonna. This is him running away to be just him on his own, or at least try to be, and they'll chase him down. That will be what the next season is going to be about. Them trying to get back.
There's probably going to be 2 paths going on here. There's going to be Rand going off of his own and the retrieval of the horn. And I'm not sure who's going to be chasing after who next season.
Yeah,
we'll certainly find out.
But surely at some point the girls have to go to the White Tower. Even if they're not going to do it properly, they have to at least pretend.
I think they will be going to the White Tower.
It could easily be the case that they go to the White Tower.
Because Elaine is getting introduced next season. I think that's all going to happen at the tower.
Maybe like there needs to be more healing done to Nynaeve and or other characters, and a lot of people are going to go to the White Tower to get better healing done, and then Egwene is going to go for the sake of Nynaeve. I could easily see that happening.
Yeah, I think pretty much. I think the girls are going to be on track to going to the White Tower. I think that's kind of their next step. I believe Perrin is probably going to go after Fodon Fane. I think he's going to take Huron's place. Because Huron was like the violence sniffer. But he's going to be the Huron.
I guess that's a way to explain that change that kind of makes sense, because they're taking out a lot of characters because there are way too many of them.
Yeah, Huron was like the guy that could smell violence. I think they're just going to have Perrin. They're going to introduce one of Perrin's new abilities, like his sense of smell.
I can live with that. That makes sense.
Yeah, I could get behind that. Huron is not super important.
No.
He's kind of like this strange character that kind of appears in.
I don't think we're going to see the cop either.
Which one?
The cop, Justin, with his little staff.
You mean what's his name?
It's like Justin or Justin.
I know who you're talking about. It's the guy that goes out with Tom.
Right. I can't pronounce.
Yeah, he's the one with the little hat, that red hat that he gets from Terabon.
Small staff.
Oh, I forgot his name. I know who you're exactly who you're talking. He's like the thief catcher.
Yeah.
We may or may not get him. I don't know. We'll have to see. He's not a super important character, but
Juilin
Sandar.
Yeah, okay. I never pronounce his name right, so because I when I first read the books, I was reading them in my head, so I didn't pronounce it the way everyone else does. It's like I said ale, and
the only reason I have any idea of how they're supposed to be pronounced is the audiobooks. Like, if you only read that, I've read some of them as physical books, and I've listened to some of them as audiobooks, and you don't know how to pronounce them properly if you're just reading it. Because some of the pronunciations don't really make sense in terms of our language rules.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in terms of English language rules, some of those don't quite track.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what does this spell out? So, yeah, Rand is going on book 3 track straight away. It sounds like.
I agree. But I think it'll be book 2 and 3 next season in one.
Yeah, they're gonna smash those 2, and I think they're actually gonna occur concurrently. It sounds like.
Yep, I think that Rand will run off to Tyr. Moraine will follow him. I think Egwene and Co will hunt down the Horn. And to do that, they'll go to the White Tower first. Then the White Tower will find out that something's going on in Falme. They'll head over there. or he'll do what Liandrin does in the actual book, and Liandrin will kidnap them or trick them into going to Falme, where they can be collared and they can find out about the Seanchan for real, and then they can have fight with the horn, and Mat can blow it because Rand's not there. But we'll see.
Here's an interesting thing too. Fane has the dagger now. Yeah, he is in possession of the dagger.
Is he?
I think that's going to draw Mat into this.
I didn't see him get the dagger. Did he get the dagger?
No, he does. He sheaths it after he stabs Loial with it.
Okay.
So the dagger apparently doesn't have its same properties.
That's why I've heard people theorize that. That reminds me now. I've heard people theorize about that's why Loial. That's could be an easy reason why Loial isn't actually dead, because the rules of the dagger are not really the same as other types of weapons.
Yeah, because normally you stab someone with that dagger and they're dead or wounded forever. Like that dagger is super bad.
Yeah, you only need to scratch somebody with it. I don't think they're gonna actually. It doesn't look like they're using that power, because if you stabbed anybody else with it, it's apparent that effect didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think they're dropping the.
But how did he get it?
I don't know. You don't know. I don't know how he got it.
So we got it from. Did Mat still have it?
No, Mat. The last time we saw the dagger was Lan wrapping it in the cloth.
Right. Yeah. So how did he get it?
Yeah, I didn't even notice. I thought he was just stabbed him with a knife. I didn't realize he had the dagger.
Oh no, it's the dagger. Yes.
Okay. Well, he does need to get it at some point, but it's a shame that we didn't see how he got it. Like that would have been a cool scene to see.
Maybe it was shot, but didn't have the room to put it in. They have so little time to put all this stuff together.
Yeah.
So I know the final scenes we see is like Moiraine picking up a rock, and she's like, "Oh, this is Quendiar." She doesn't explain what just happened, but the book readers are like, "Oh, looks like you broke that seal." That's what it was. It was a seal. So Rand broke a seal. He goes off because he doesn't want to hurt anybody with his newfound powers. I think it's just going to be the Shienarans and Perrin going off on the Horn Hunt. Yeah. I think the girls are going to get sent to the tower.
That would make sense.
I think Mat is. I don't know what's going to happen to Mat, but I think he's actually going to go try to find the dagger, which is basically going to send him on the same path that Perrin's on. I don't think Moiraine is going to actively start hunting Rand at first. And she may not, but I think she's probably going to learn something along the path which makes her have to go after Rand. Because if she was going to go after Rand, she would have done it immediately, like right there and then. So I think she's going to try and remedy her situation with her powers. And then if she remedies that, then she'll go after Rand to assist him or do whatever he's trying to do. What do you guys think?
That makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really thought that much about predictions because they're going in so many different directions with the show. Some of which I like, some of which I don't like. So I don't know, like anything. But those possibilities make sense with what's happened so far, for sure.
Well, those are the possibilities that would satisfy me, considering what they've done so far. Hopefully they're able to redeem those paths by doing something in the vein that I've described, but we'll have to see. I think it's interesting too that, hey, we read the books, but we're still like up in the air about what's going to happen next. Yeah, like we can't have like the backbone of what may happen next. None of us are sure.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and I think Yeah, I think that's one of the things they're going for, is so that like people like us can enjoy the show in a different way, like be excited. But
Yeah, because I
I just
remember
I just
watching
don't want them to.
Thrones
Yeah.
and having read the books already. I was like, okay, I know what's coming next. I know what's coming next. Like, I didn't have any of my expectations were not subverted watching that show.
Right.
A lot of them are here, which is interesting.
Until the last few seasons, right?
Well, yeah, because we don't have anything to refer to it, so we're like, okay, I don't have a book to look back on to see if how closely they're following it. But man, those last few seasons, I'm not going to talk about those. You can watch those, Andrew, when you get there.
I don't want to watch them yet because I want to read the book.
Yeah. Last few seasons, I'm not going to talk about those. I would say though, but just watching the show,
it seems
while
to me
they were
like
adhering to the books, it was like really easy to follow,
Yeah.
and like our expectations for the most part weren't broken.
it's already seeming to me like I've only just barely started season 5, but it seems to me like season 5 is when they start to venture off the path of the books a little bit.
Yeah, they do diverge with Janie and stuff. You'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and a few other
Anyway.
things.
yeah, a few other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the early seasons, you're like, oh, yeah, I can't wait till my wife sees the red wedding. I know it's happening. I'm just gonna look at her face when everything goes down and see how she reacts to it. And yeah, so that's what I expected. It went down almost exactly how it went down in the book. So
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. So, Tristram, what are some of? Do you have any predictions about what's going to happen in season 2?
Yeah, I think it will be a combination of the important parts of the Great Hunt and the Dragon Reborn. I was a lot more sure about what I thought would happen before I saw this season, because I didn't realize they were going to. Like, I knew that loads of stuff would get cut out, but I didn't realize how much extra stuff they were going to add in, and like that surprised me. Clearly he wants to add in a bunch of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, we have like a Legane episode, which obviously you wouldn't have if you were in the books. So
that's one of the changes that I liked, because Loghain, how they ramped up the growth of Loghain in the series so far, I think it's done really well.
Yeah, and again, the actor's done a good job as well, and that's that. Like as said about Padan Fain, that makes a big difference if the actor's good. So we'll see. But anyway, what I'm expecting to happen is I think they will do 2 major arcs. I think there will be a To the Tower to Falme arc and a To Falme to Tyr arc. But I don't know if they're going to want the cast to be completely in separate places the entire time. So I think they might use Falme as a place to bring them together. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get Kalandor at the end of this next one. I wouldn't be surprised if we have the blowing of the horn at Falme as the end, potentially both simultaneously.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, well, I think it's a way of doing it. There's a lot of things that happen in 3 and 2 that can be cut without any major damage. I think the things that have to happen is, for me, to enjoy it, I have to see them go to the tower, and there has to be some kind of nod, at least, to them being trained, to the accepted test, that kind of thing. I really, really hope they don't miss that out. It's a really enjoyable part of the book. It helps make sense of what the Aes Sedai are all about. And the chapter on Through the Rings is one of the best chapters in the first 4 books. It's amazing. And I really, it's a chance to explain what ter'angreal are, which can help explain the weird Moraine through the Looking Glass episode where she used presumably a ter'angreal there. And so to explain how that's different from a sa'angreal, and they can do it with the show don't tell. And then while they're there, Liandrin can trick them and they can go to Falme. That's what I'm hoping will happen. We saw, by the way, one of the things that we haven't mentioned is, what did you think of the introduction of the Seanchan at the end?
I thought the look of the Seanchan looked amazing. It was really great.
I thought it was a cool moment. It just kind of came out of nowhere. So like I kind of like I kind of like it. It was just unexpected, but that was kind of cool though.
Yeah,
I like that intro. It was pretty neat.
I love the ships, and one of the things again is one of the things in the books was that I was like, it's so clear that the Aes Sedai can almost never use their powers for combat. Like it's so restricted, and they can't really do that most of the time. And so then when the Seanchan just use the one power to just summon lightning and blow up a ship, you're like, what the crap? You can't do that. But we're not going to have that, are we? Because we've already seen that Aes Sedai can just pull lightning out the sky and do, untrained. So I'm afraid they're going to lose that a little bit. But I guess one of the things that Rafe has shown is he's just going to go bigger, right? Because like the tidal wave effect, and showing that like also it did look weird. Like it looked like they're the Damni were wearing gags, which I thought was a little strange.
That did look weird. Yeah.
Like there's no need.
Like I don't remember enough about the Seanchan. Like they can all channel that much too.
The Damanes can.
The Damane are just the Damane are just the thing is they're just channelers, right? But they're channelers with no oaths. No oaths at all.
Yeah.
So
the strongest female channeler is a Damane, like an ex-Damane.
Okay.
Yeah. But the thing is that if you don't have the oaths, you can just do whatever you want. But the thing is, like, it's not going to make as much sense how they just so easily beat the Aes Sedai, because we haven't really got this idea that the Aes Sedai don't use the power as a weapon. Like she said what the oaths are, but like, yeah.
Isn't it? Did she say in defense of one's life, or just
she did.
As a weapon in general?
No, she said you cannot use it to create a weapon for one man to kill another. They said the oaths correctly. In the last defense of her life or that of her warder. And that's fine. But the thing is that, like, the book, the first two books give us plenty of time to establish that the Aes Sedai basically don't see the power as a weapon. They see it as literally an extension of their will, and an ability to do healing, research, knowledge, things of fantastic extravagance. Like in the One Tower, they don't have combat classes.
Right.
That isn't what they do. There's no defense against the dark arts. Yeah. And that's why when the Seanchan come, they're not ready. And that's why Egwene needs to be the Amyrlin for the future, because she hasn't sworn the oaths. And so she is capable of wielding the power in a way that the other Aes Sedai aren't. And also because she hasn't had all her training is cut so short, she isn't indoctrinated into the old way of thinking. But we don't even understand the old way of thinking in this show. So they're going to have to do something a little different. And I think what they're going to do is just have them go bigger.
Well, I think the second season really gives them an opportunity for them to show the old way of thinking. And that's why I really hope that they really send both those girls to the tower, and we really get to see like the ins and outs of how inflexible the Aes Sedai are.
Yeah, we need that if we're going to buy that the Seanchan had this advantage over them in combat, at least.
All right. Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping.
That they then find out that the Damni actually don't understand how to do some of the things that the Aes Sedai do understand, because they've only been used as weapons and things. so they don't like
Right.
understand the level of like, for example, they don't understand circles. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because-
not as because
Yeah.
of
So
they
they only
don't
have
do
like two
circles.
people circles because they've never researched that because all their channels are enslaved. So it's just interesting. It's interesting to think about. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so now it comes to ranking time. I guess we could rank the whole season. Amongst the other episodes, how does this rank for you?
This is definitely my least favorite.
It irritated
out of
me,
eight for
but
me.
not. I don't think this irritated me as much as some of the other things because I already didn't like the ending of book one.
Mhm.
So I was already kind of like I was ready for this. This was the bit of the book I was ready for the most changes, like in advance. I think there was lots. I like the attack. It's a shame that they used the circle to do it instead of Rand in a way, but I guess why they did. But it does work out that way. I liked the scenery. I liked the Padan Fain scene. I loved the cold open. I enjoyed Moraine being tough. I enjoyed the fact that they finally used a line directly from the books, and it was brilliant, well delivered by Lan, like the god in man's flesh that he is. What a legend! And so I would say this is it isn't my favorite, definitely not. I much prefer episodes 1, episode 4, episode 3, and episode 6. No, 7.
Yeah,
I think
my
all of those were
favorite
better.
my favorite is 4. I would say. I don't
Yeah.
know how I would rank them other than 4 being my favorite and 8 being my least favorite. Episode 3 and episode 1 are both really great too.
I agree. 3 and 1 were very good. And I just loved the cold open of 7. It was really
Yeah,
good.
for sure.
Yeah, 7 is my second favorite episode.
Yeah.
I think my first would be 4, like Andrew. I really liked episode 4.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, 4 for me. It's 4, 7, 3, 1, 2, 5, and 8 would be at the end.
Yeah, I would say actually
Like
5 was one of my least favorite episodes too, but I liked 8 way less than 5 though.
I would say, yeah. To me, 8 and 5. Like, I'm not saying they're bad episodes. I'm not saying that at all. Like, I still think 8 is good TV.
Yeah.
There's just things that irk me as a reader. Like, I know I would enjoy it if I hadn't read the series more, because I wouldn't be so nitpicky about them adhering to the rules of what I know and what has been set out.
Yeah.
But yeah, 8 in no way is like, oh, this is boring and sucks and I don't like it and
It definitely
doesn't
wasn't
make sense.
boring.
No, it's pretty good TV. Like, I've watched it, I think, a total of 3 times. And when I watched it the first time, I was totally like on edge about, hey, what's going to happen here? I'm just saying,
Which is the
like,
advantage of lots of
compared,
changes.
yeah, just compared to the others, it's my least favorite, but it's not bad. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. One of the things, and again, it goes back to what Andrew said, but like, I think almost all my problems with the series, the problems I do have, and I don't have infinite problems, but the problems I do have are almost always because of my love of specific things in the books. And so, like, that's like, I understand that that's like something I've got to get over, but it also is a little worrying that someone who's read the books, like, that shouldn't be a problem. That shouldn't be the reason I'm struggling to enjoy the show. And
Yeah,
if it is,
exactly.
then they should be asking themselves a question and learning from the feedback and thinking, can we keep our great TV reaction and get more out of the great stuff from the books? Because there is some great stuff in the books.
Mhm.
And some great lines, and I was really pleased to see them use a little bit of that in this episode, and I hope that we see more of it.
Mm.
Yeah, just little shout outs, even just bits that just can allow them to show the best of what the book has to offer.
Right. Yeah, from what I know, most of season 2 has been written, well, at least according to Sanderson, because he's already read the scripts. And I know they shot some of it already, because they started shooting season 2, I think, earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. It all happened early because of COVID.
Right, because there was a hiatus. Because I think this show probably should have came out sooner, but they had to stop some things due to COVID. And since they're shooting in another country, you know, the other country has different rules and whatnot. So, and we know, I wonder how much of a toll, like, what did COVID do? Like, what was it? How did it affect this season? Like, I'm totally curious on like what they had to change, if it had affected.
I'm sure we'll hear a lot about that one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there'll be documentaries about that kind of thing, won't there? Not just for this show, for many shows.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm excited for next season. I really want to know how they're going to resolve certain things.
Yeah. I hope they fix a lot of stuff that really didn't make sense, and I don't understand why it happened.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to explain why they did. Yeah, they're going to have to explain some way in World. I know Rafe does some explaining in interviews, so I know it's.
So he has a
head. You gotta hunt those. Yeah. We sometimes have to. Like when I get upset about things, I was like, let's see if he's been interviewed about that. Let's see what he said.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it might be the only time you'll ever get an explanation is in one of those interviews. Mm-hmm. And you may not get an explanation in the show. I know one of his explanations of why he ended it the way he did was because he wanted to make the ending not so focused on Rand. Yeah. And he wanted everyone to play some type of part, even though Perrin basically did nothing. Say, you
forgot Perrin.
Yeah, the only thing Perrin has now is like, oh, I was right there when Fane did his nasty thing, so I am motivated to hunt him down after I get over my whole pacifist thing.
But you see, the thing is, that's the problem as well, because it shouldn't be like, oh, I can't wait till Perrin gets over his stupid pacifist thing. Like, his dedication to wanting to be a builder instead of a killer is actually something that should be admired. And and like, if we're not careful, the show is going to show him as stupid and boring until he starts killing people, and
I think
would be a sad arc to his character.
Well, I hope they do focus on some of his character building. I know something important is, I don't know if they're going to have Noah in there or not. We'll see. Gnome, is that his name? Like the guy that he finds who also can talk to wolves, but he turns crazy.
I don't know what they're going to do, because they obviously skipped the other wolf brothers so far. So I have a feeling they might just be intending to go that he's the only one.
Well, they need to develop that though. Like,
yeah, they really do. Yeah,
I think he's like the least Well, even Matt was more developed, I thought. It seems like they really need to develop him, and I'm looking forward, hopefully, to some development. Whatever they do, hopefully they develop him more. One thing I'm looking forward to is some type of parallel when I know there's a point in book 3 where he finds like a local blacksmith and he's
Yep.
like being a blacksmith again and he's really happy, but then again,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
like that.
yeah, but then, you know, he still has the responsibilities of, hey, you know, your home is in danger. Things aren't okay in the world. You can't kind of forget that.
Yeah.
And he does. And the thing about Perrin, right, is that Perrin is someone who clearly does not want to do this, but he does it anyway. But he only does it anyway, not because he wants to, but because it is necessary. And he realizes that it does have to be him because he has certain skills and abilities that make him perfect for it. Like when Bail is trying to teach him to be a leader, he's like, look, I'm not saying you guys shouldn't go and do it, but I just don't want it to be me. Like, can't it just be somebody else? And she's like, makes it clear that actually, Perrin, you're really good at this. So someone else could do it, but they wouldn't do it as well as you're doing it. So you've got to, even though this is not what you want to do, it's something you must do if you want to do what is right. And the thing is, what you find out is that that is what Perrin is really interested in. It's not just pacifism, it's doing what is actually right. And I hope that they make that come across in the show, that he is above anyone else in the series, in my opinion, moral. He is morally based.
Yeah.
And I want to feel that way about Perrin because I love my boy Perrin. He's my favorite of the Emond's Field 5, like of the boys. Sorry, and it'll be a shame if that doesn't come across.
Yeah.
Oh, he's your favorite of the boys, but your favorite of them is Field 5 is Nynaeve.
It is like he's my favorite of most of the characters. I think I prefer him even over Lan. But he is like a great character, but I'm not. It's hard for anyone to beat Nynaeve for me. I love her character in the books. I love her in the film as well, in the show as well. She's just a really, really cool character.
Right. Yeah, Matt's just completely up in the air.
I like her more in the show so far, actually, because like I was saying before, she's like all of the Emond's Field 5 are like really super whiny in the earlier books.
Yeah,
kind of, yeah. Except
I don't think Perrin whines very much, but
yeah, Perrin doesn't whine much.
Perrin doesn't, but like
he gets pissed off about how Faile acts. That's
Nynaeve especially, and Egwene a little bit, and Matt a whole lot, and Rand a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That I can't argue with that. And actually, but I think that the show has that a lot less, but still has some of it, and I think it's a good balance. I
think it's a good too. Like I'm glad they don't focus too much on like their naive farmness and whiny angstiness. I think it's a good thing that they're kind of like aging up the characters and making them a little bit more mature.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yep, agreed.
Me too.
So yeah, I guess we could start wrapping up.
Yep.
You said 8 wasn't your favorite, but it's not your least favorite.
No, it's not my least favorite. I really found the water episode annoying.
5.
Was that 6 or 5?
Yeah, that's 5.
Yeah, I didn't like that one either. Yeah,
I just found it a bit boring, and like I kept expecting something that was in the books to happen.
Brother Book shows up.
And yeah, I guess he does, and that is probably my highlight of that episode is his voice. not his hairstyle. Yeah. Because I there's a meme out there which is like looking at what a Perrin looks like, and it's got like a guy going, "Ugh," and then it's got Perrin like looking the way Loial talks, and he's giving a thumbs up. He looks so satisfied. I'm like, that was exactly me. I was like, this is not the way I wanted to look, but that is exactly the way I wanted him to sound.
Right.
Oh, that's Drake you're talking about.
Is that the meme?
Yeah, it's the Drake meme where Drake is like on the bottom panel he has a thumbs up, and on the other panel he's kind of like cringing and
that's exactly what it is.
Oh, you mean like when you see it but you hear the voice? You're like,
yeah, exactly.
Well, I have high hopes. I'm not like disappointed. I think I have more praise for the show than I have disdain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's various opinions about all across, the review verse. You're going to hear people reviewing that particularly don't like the show. You're going to hear people who have nothing but good things to say about the show. Absolutely. Mostly the people who have nothing but good things are people who haven't read the books, because it seems like anyone who's read the books is going to have some criticism about how certain things are handled. I love non-book readers. They're just great, at least their reactions, at least.
One of the things I'll just say, though, as well, is it's the nature of these books, because these books are super long, super in-depth. So the people who are the readers who are going on YouTube, etc., about it are all like, they're not just readers, they're super nerds, right? They're people who've read the series multiple times and are dedicated to the lore and the magic system, etc. They're not just people who glanced over it that one time. And that's the problem, is it's people like me. And if you actually like just have like if this was an adaptation of, I don't know, a David Walliams book, you probably don't even know who that is, but like just some sort of like comic book that got done that one time by that one guy, and people have heard of it, maybe read it once, picked it up in an airport, it doesn't have the same impact. Stephen King books don't have the same impact. Like, people love the adaptations of the Stephen King books, even though loads of them are way off the books. Because if people read it, they only read it the once, and there's no major deep lore in each individual book. Though, of course, if you go into the Dark Tower and the beyond, the behind the scenes, there's far more there. But you don't need to be.
It is an interconnected
like, if you just want to read,
it's just nowhere near the level of the Cosmere.
No, but also if you just want to read it, then you just read it, right? If you just want to read Misery, you just go read Misery. And then, like, if I've just read Misery and then I go and watch the show, I'm not really dedicated to that lore. It's like, just, it's a cool idea. Let's see what they did with it.
But it's because their super nerds are so dedicated to this stuff.
Yeah, it's the kind of people who read 14 books of 1,000 pages are the super nerd group, and they're the people who are going to be the hardest to please with an adaptation that cannot be the same as the books. And I include myself in that group. I knew that I would have nitpicky problems, but I am so grateful that we have an adaptation. I'm so grateful that we're seeing these people on screen, and that the actors seem to be doing such a great job of putting them forward. And I only hope that its popularity remains so good that we get future seasons and we can see more of the lengthy, drawn-out process. Because, let's be honest, the purpose of this season was to ensure that they got season 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're saying they're doing season 3. They signed off on 3, so at least we got. Yeah, 1 did very well for Amazon. Hopefully 2 does well for Amazon also.
Yeah, dang straight.
All right. Well, I guess we could start the wrap up here. Andrew, you got any plugs you want to plug?
Yeah, check out Mindgasms, where Dusty and I talked about one of my favorite Christmas movies, Die Hard 2, last week, and tomorrow we're gonna talk about the Snyder Cut, the 4 hour long different version of Justice League, and nerd out about that, of course. And also next week, I'm gonna do my reaction slash review video on the new Matrix movie because I just watched that the other day. And also next weekend. Now that we're done talking about the Wheel of Time season 1, do you guys want to talk about those Brandon Sanderson short stories from Arcanum Unbounded?
Yeah,
that sounds good to me.
they're not like Emperor's Soul's a freaking novella, but yeah. We can.
Well, like we can try to talk about all three, but if we only we can talk about them one at a time, and if we only get through 2 of them, then that's fine. We can do another episode.
Because like I definitely think that the Emperor's Soul could be spoken about for a significant amount of time. But anyway, they're all really good. They're all really good. So is it Six of the Dusk and
Shadows for Silence in the
Forest of Hell? Yeah, I think those two short stories had a lot of depth. We could definitely talk about those for a full episode for sure.
Well, do you guys, if we're gonna do separate episodes, how do you guys want to arrange that in terms of which one we should address first? Well, should we address Emperor's Soul first, or the other two?
Well, let's end this. Let's sign this off, and then we can do that over Messenger and discuss it. So
okay. Yeah, for sure. Sure. All right. Yeah. So check out Mindgasms for all that upcoming stuff, and that's just check that out.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Andrew. Tristram, you usually don't have any plugs. Do you have anything for us today?
No. I enjoyed talking about Wheel of Time. Go watch the show. Support the Wheel of Time by watching the show. That's what they're going to pay attention to.
Yeah, watch it multiple times. I've watched each episode at least twice, I think. But yeah, it's a great show. I'd recommend. Well, I haven't gotten my wife to watch it yet. She just saw I showed her a trailer. She saw the Trollocs, and she just couldn't handle it.
She couldn't handle the Trollocs?
No, she's not into scary things. And the Trollocs are a bit too much for her. She can handle White Walker zombies, but not Trollocs.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioning that before, and Tristan being shocked that she found them more Trollocs more horrifying than the White Walkers.
Yeah, well, they do look pretty gruesome and demonish. So
they do.
Next week. So I guess we'll start getting back into WoT eventually. Now that the season's over. Let's say we could give it a good 2 to 3 weeks before.
Now that we're finished with WoT, we're going to go back into WoT. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, the show. Well, we're finished with the show, so we can get back into the books. So we can get back into Winter's Heart, which is where we're at right now. We would get into the first part of it. I say it would give us a good 3 weeks. For that, because I know Andrew wants to do the short stories. So once we get done with the Sanderson stuff, then I'll get a hard date for the getting back into the books. But for now, next sessions will be up to what Andrew wants to do, because there's a couple of things that we have on our back burner. That we put back there since we undertook the WoT show. So we could either do Sword of Truth 3 or Castlevania, whichever. Yeah.
And I'll talk about either, because we'll do one after the other, I'm sure. Doesn't matter to me.
All right. We could do either one of those. I think we'll probably do Sword of Truth first because it's going to be an informal conversation. Usually the Castlevania ones are like deep dives. So we'll go ahead and do Sword of Truth first, and then we'll get back into Castlevania.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming and discussing the show with me. I can't wait till next season rolls around, and it's going to be just as fun talking about that as well. With its ups and downs, I'm hoping to have a roller coaster like I did this season of wow moments and WTF moments and head shaking moments. But yeah, we'll see how everything goes down. Can't wait to see our new actor to see how he does and how he takes
I
that
really hope
character
that
forward.
goes well. Really hope that
Yeah,
goes
me
well.
too. Me too.
Well, yeah, thank you guys and good night. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Check out Andrew's channel as well. We're going to be on his channel talking about what, Andrew? Did you mention that? What we're going to talk about tomorrow?
Snyder Cut of Justice League, 4-hour-long superhero movie.
Yes, 4-hour-long superhero movie that I just finished yesterday, and I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, I thought it was
how?
a lot better than the theatrical version.
I didn't like the theatrical version. I thought it was bad, and I was like, okay, how can they change this for me? And I was like, oh, that was actually pretty good. I'm glad I watched that.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow on Andrew's channel, the Snyder Cut of the Justice League, and I can't wait to see you guys there. Yeah, and everyone have a great night.
All right, adios until next time, everyone.
All right, bye for now.